And we're off and running. Good morning. Larry Krueger joined by Damon Bruce for the first edition of the Palmetto's 49er Wake Up. It is September 11th, 2023, and the day after the 49ers dismantle the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field, or the stadium formerly known as Heinz Field, 30-7 49ers, and welcome to our brand new show, 49er Wake Up, presented by Palmetto Superfoods. Damon, very excited to see you. We're going to be doing this every morning after 49er football, bright and early. We're off and running. The Bruce kids are on their way to school or daycare or whatever, and Damon is free to talk football. What's up?
It's amazing. It's amazing what you can do in an empty house. Larry, it is great to see you. Welcome. We are going to be streaming this on both our pages, but the technology has yet to be installed on my computer for that to happen. So we're over here on the Krug Show, which delivers us your massive audience, and that's exactly what we want to deliver to Palmetto Superfoods. We're going to be talking about 49ers football and acai bowls. I mean, this is a brand new sponsor, and we are thrilled to have them aboard. We actually have something healthy, Larry, to offer our audiences for the first time and maybe ever. And boy, do we have an awful lot to talk about today when it comes to what the 49ers did yesterday, but for the New York Giants laying down and dying on Sunday Night Football, which, absolutely gives the Dallas Cowboys the most impressive lopsided week one win. The 49ers are right behind them. What they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road was nothing short of, that's a statement. How much of a Super Bowl statement can you make in week one? The answer is not much. There's a lot of football to play, but the 49ers are pinging right in the middle of every single NFL entity's radar as a team not to just be taken seriously, but a team to be feared. When they go out and they execute like that for 4 quarters, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. And Larry, something that usually doesn't happen on a football field happened yesterday. The Steelers got manhandled.
That's right.
The Pittsburgh
at home
Steelers
in week one.
Historically, sure, the Pittsburgh Steelers lose some football games, but getting manhandled in football games is not a trait of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that to me is one of the standout takeaways of yesterday's show. It's one thing to beat a football team. It's another thing to beat a football team up.
Well, and I'll push back, since we're going to do a lot of disagreeing on this show. I already get the feeling. One thing I'll disagree with is I don't think the 49ers Steelers takes a back seat to the Cowboys beating the New York Giants. The Cowboys own the New York Giants. That's a divisional matchup. The New York Giants, they're not that good. But the 49ers going into Pittsburgh and slapping around Mike Tomlin, who I believe, was slapping around Mike Tomlin's team, saying, when you think about how great they've been in week one under Tomlin and what an automatic win that has been for the Steelers, the Niners were favored. And at least that the odds makers got that right. But I think I'll say Niners routing the Steelers at Heinz Field was probably maybe a bigger surprise nationally. I watched the NFL Network. They had 10 writers on. 7 of them picked Pittsburgh, I believe, to win the game, or maybe they might have been picking with the spread. But either way, I would say Niners, routing the Steelers, to me, is the number one surprise of week one. And I'll say this, just the 3 quick takeaways. 1, Kyle Shanahan not on the hot seat. Okay, can we get that firmly established? Anybody who says he is wrong.
They lost the game. All right, the 49ers lost the game. Kyle Shanahan's not on a hot seat.
Not on a hot seat. Brock Purdy is now 8-1 as a starter, and as I said the other day, he's significantly better than Kenny Pickett. And he beat Pat Pete for a touchdown, and Pat Pete finally owned it at his locker. But I think it has to be said that the extreme pro Trey Lance crowd, who literally has spent the last 7+ months diminishing Brock Purdy, ripping Brock Purdy, saying that Brock Purdy, in any number of thousands of ways that you can tweet it, isn't freaking good enough. Those people don't get to jump on the Brock Purdy bandwagon today without a firm and clear statement of I was dead freaking wrong. Okay, so you want to be on the Brock Purdy train, come on over. All Niner fans deserve to be on it, but you must your ticket to board the Brock Purdy train gets paid when you can look the mic, look the camera in the eye, and say, you know what? I've been saying for the last 7 months that this kid isn't good enough, and I was dead wrong. If you can say that, come aboard. If you can't say that, the train's moving on without you. That's how I feel. And then takeaway number 3, the 49ers serve notice to the rest of the NFC. They are an elite team. They are a top-level Super Bowl contender. And if you didn't think so, if you don't know, now you know. So there you go. 3 takeaways out of the chute. But I do feel strongly about the Brock Purdy, the Trey Lance anti-Purdy crowd that literally diminished the guy, made up names for him, said 10 ways till Sunday that he couldn't do it, that he was too small, that he wasn't good enough, and then they retreated after he clearly beat out Trey Lance this summer. They retreated into this weak freaking corner of the universe where they just sat there for the last 4 or 5 days going, well, you know what? He's not as good as Kenny Pickett. He's better than Kenny Pickett. He's 8-1 as a starter, and you don't get to board the Brock Purdy train without the I was dead wrong card. Thank you.
Do you want to attach any names or identities to these people, Larry? Because you are the one.
No, I really don't, because they know who they are.
You are the one who actually gives them a platform to spout what is nothing more than propaganda. And that's all they have. And a
no. They have
propagandists will never stop selling their propaganda because they have no actual knowledge to share. Had they had some knowledge to share, they would have shared it by now. So
they all have their own platforms, and I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying
they don't know football.
I would say I'm not going to go they don't know football. But where I am going to go is
they don't know the football team they're claiming to cover. Is that it? Is that the excuse then?
I'm just saying, you know what? I've been right. I've been wrong. I was on the radio for 30 years. What did I say? I used to sign off at night with, thanks for listening to Sports Phone 680. I'm Larry Krueger. Often wrong, seldom in doubt. And it's just a way of saying that, guess what? If you sit in front of one of these and in front of one of those, the camera, and you sit there and you talk about sports and you give opinions, we're all freaking wrong. From time to time, we make mistakes and we are wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. It's just sports. But just don't try to pretend on the Monday morning after Brock Purdy goes to Heinz Field and lights them up that you were all about Brock all along. The hell you were. You diminished him, you ripped him, you used artful discussions and phrasing to say that he wasn't good enough. You argued to the top of the hilt that what he was doing wasn't sustainable and that he wasn't good enough and that Shanahan was on some freaking hot seat because he went with Purdy and traded Lance and this and that. Maybe Shanahan knows what he's talking about. Maybe Brock Purdy, if you just thought about it for a second, is actually pretty good. And even I love my buddy Mark Willard, but he put out a poll on Twitter on Friday, and it was like 3 options for Brock Purdy. One that he was like a bust, the other that he was like just like a backup, and the third one was that he was a legitimate NFL starter. And I tweeted him. I said, Mark, you needed to have a 4th option there, and Twitter, Elon's given you a 4th option. Take it. You got a 4th option on those polls. What about option 4? Option 4 needs to be Brock Purdy is a very good NFL quarterback. Very good. And if that's not one of the options, that's probably not a complete poll.
So here's the thing. You and I need to spend 0 time pointing out how wrong these people were. The NFL
it had to be said, though, this morning. Would you agree?
The NFL has proven how little someone who watches this team claiming to be at practice every day actually gets it. It does. You can look at something, but when you still don't know what you're looking at, what good is it? And that's all I'm going to say. Put it on film. Film don't lie. Film don't lie. What the 49ers put on film yesterday was a masterclass of coaching by Kyle Shanahan, where he worked circles around, Mike Tomlin and Matt Canada, who was the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had nowhere to go with the ball. They had no idea what to do with it. So to spend any time trying to frame Kyle Shanahan as not good enough is preposterous. And then when you take the whole mystery of what Trey Lance might have been and want to use that to trump the reality of what we're actually getting out of Brock Purdy, you and I don't need to point out how wrong those people were. Reality did that. Football did that. So, choose your content creators carefully. We are not all created equal, which was a point that I was trying to make, and they want to drag me for that. Fuck off. Doesn't matter. Football, you can't lie. The tape doesn't lie. But a lot of people looking for attention need to lie to get their attention, because if they actually just calmly sat down to talk about what they're seeing, it might not be hot enough to gain traction. You and I don't need to perform any stunts, Larry, to have a crowd gather around us to watch us talking about football. You and I'm not even kidding, mathematically, provably, statistically, I doubt you can find two human beings who have spent more of the last 2 decades talking to 49ers fans, with 49ers players, brass coaches. You and I have done this for a nearly combined 40 years together. So, that's why when we're telling you that was a pretty good day of football, it means so much more than someone trying to diminish what that day of football was because they didn't like the fact that their football boyfriend got thrown off the team.
It's okay to be wrong, man.
Right.
It's okay to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I here's the thing. I put up tweets. I don't take them down. I put up videos. I don't take them down for the most part. If I misspell something, or if I really put my foot in my mouth, or if I really felt like I didn't like it. It's not like I've never taken a tweet down. I've never taken a video down. But I mean, we got people that are literally whitewashing their YouTube. Like, nothing that I said for the last 7 months needs to be heard by anybody now, because now I'm proven incorrect. That's all right. It's okay. Guess what? I get some right. I get some wrong. I thought J.J. Stokes was going to be the next Jerry Rice. I thought Carlos Hyde was going to be, a monster Pro Bowl running back. It happens. I thought Rashawn Woods was awesome. Kentwan Balmer had a big future. You know what I'm saying? We all get it wrong. All I'm saying is just a simple, basic acknowledgement of, hey, man, I'm covering the Niners. I'm giving you my thoughts. And guess what? Shanahan, I was wrong. He's not on a hot seat. He's one of the hottest coaches going today. If the Niners fired him, 10 other teams would want him. Brock Purdy, he's not a weak-armed backup. He's a legit NFL quarterback who's 8-1 as a starter, and he's significantly better than Kenny Pickett.
Look,
that was my other takeaway. Nothing against the Steelers, Damon, but Kenny Pickett is not a future awesome quarterback. He was behind his receivers all day. He was rattled by the Niner rush. He's decent and nothing more.
Look, what we're watching is nothing short of a historically significantly good start by Brock Purdy. The numbers are in. So it's one thing to say this guy might not be able to do it like this all the time, but to say that he's incompetent and is the wrong guy to be the quarterback of the team really doesn't make any sense. Right. When, he is the first quarterback in NFL history to be 6-0 and throw at least 2 touchdowns in each win. He's also the first quarterback with a passer rating of 95 or higher in each of his first 6 career regular season starts in NFL history. So, it's a start. It's a significant start. It's a historically pretty significant start. And the whole point is if all you offer is complaints, you're really not complaining about anything, because all you do is complain. So we, I think, bring enough experience to the table to know what is good, what is wrong, what is bad, and I'm really happy that everyone is here today to watch 49ers wake up. Larry Krueger and I are going to be with you the morning after every single 49ers game this year. So sometimes the show will be appearing on Mondays, other times on Tuesdays, other times on Fridays, and it will be brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods all the time. Larry, you got the scroll? Hit the people with the scroll to let all of the different folks who are basically saying, what is Palmetto Superfoods? It's an acai bowl. This is something that I've never had in my life until Larry and I were there on Saturday trying one, and it's absolutely delicious. It's not even a dessert cup or a breakfast cup as much as it feels like a dessert cup. It's almost like you feel like you're eating a bowl of ice cream. It's so satisfying and delicious, and the truth is, it's all kinds of words that normally you and I are not associated with. It's healthy. It happens to be vegan, but don't hold that against it. It is absolutely delicious, and it's the rare thing you eat a big cup of it, and a few minutes later, you're like, I actually feel really satisfied, and I feel good, and I don't have that weighed down full feeling. Palmetto Superfoods. Try it out. Acai bowl. It's something that I've never eaten in my life, and there's no going back, Larry. Once you go acai, there's no going back. It is...
It was incredible. It was incredible. We went Saturday down to Burlingame, one of the many locations right now. He's got 6 locations, but 9 more openings, so he'll have 15 locations here in the next year or two. Union Street in San Francisco, Clement Street in San Francisco. We went down to Burlingame. They're in Santana Row in San Jose, Town and Country Mall. They're in Palo Alto, inside the Metreon, right there on South of Market in the city. Future locations coming, I should say, in San Francisco, Campbell, Mill Valley, Berkeley, Walnut Creek. They're going to be in the downtown plaza there in Walnut Creek, San Ramon, Mountain View, Southern California, more planned for the Hawaiian Islands. And yeah, acai bowls. We had one Saturday. It was phenomenal. I can recommend it highly. And it's just like, you know what? Put away the bacon and eggs, guys, in the morning and do something a little bit better for yourself. I just felt, not only did I enjoy it, it was really good, but I just kind of felt like supercharged, by eating it at the, when we were done. It was like, hey, you know what? That was damn good.
Right.
Really good.
I'm looking at your comment. JJ Raider says, vegan. Damon, you've changed. Look, yeah, I tell you, it's something that surprised me as well. And what I love about Charles, who is the guy who runs Palmetto, is he basically said, look around you. As you can see, we've got the yoga Lululemon crowd down on lock. What we need to do is spread the word of this to dudes. Like, here's something I've never said hanging out with any of my boys. You guys want to go get an acai bowl? But like, I'll say that now because I've had one and I know what it is. It's delicious. And I really recommend anyone who is watching us right now, who is interested in this, you go get one, and you get one from Palmetto Superfoods. There are other restaurants doing this. There are other locations selling acai bowls, but none of them are as good. This is the #1 rated acai bowl. And you know what we got to do, Larry? We need to just stop selling it with our words. We need a picture, right? Oh, there's Stacy Leo. She's a hardcore pluser. She was at Plus Mania. I love you, Stacy. Thank you for being
she's
over
got
here.
the right, what would you call that little underneath the C there, Damon? Is
She has the Pierre Garçon front. That's the only other time Pierre Garçon had that little front underneath that C, and and that's the only other time, other than in the word acai, I am familiar with the front on the C. It's really, really good. It's really good, and it's good for you. And how often do Larry and I ever sell you anything that's good for you? We sell you football. That's not good for you. We sell you barbecue. That's not good for you. I sell you a lot of like sandwiches and whiskey. That's not good for you. We sell you gambling. Technically not good for you. This is something that's actually good for you. Look at us, Larry, turning over a new leaf, helping the world out for a change. My
seriously, give your system a day off from the barbecue and the 5-team parlay and get yourself an acai bowl.
So check it out. Check it out. We'll be telling you about it all season long. And what we really need to, because these suckers sell themselves. When you see it, I don't need a lot of pretty food. It's beautiful. The bowl is actually beautiful. We'll have one on one of these shows, and we'll just show it to everyone, and people will be like, okay, all right. What is that?
Did you see Lucas? Lucas says, acai is from Brazil, my country. And you are absolutely correct.
Lucas,
it is awesome.
Oi, tudo bem? That's the only Portuguese I got. Oi, tudo bem, which is the Brazilian equivalent of, hey, how you doing?
Uncle Salty drops a whiskey is good, whiskey is wise.
Well, I'm not here to argue about any of that either. So here's the thing.
He's saying, bite your tongue, Damon, bite your tongue.
Spend your weekend acting like a self-destructive, gambling, football-loving fat boy. But Monday
Seriously,
through Friday.
Put away your brats on a Monday and get some acai.
Larry, I want to just hop into what I thought were the biggest numbers of this game. Everyone has seen what Brock Purdy has represented. Everyone sees, what he does. See, every NFL game is basically a close-up of the quarterback, a close-up of the head coach, back to another close-up of the quarterback. And I did love that close-up of Brock where he was given the first down. I mean, he was out there having fun. And I can't remember the last time I saw a 49er quarterback.
That was like a Mahomes moment, by the way, when he got loose and ran in the fourth quarter. That's another one. It's like nobody realizes the guy can run, when he needs to. He's not, he's not a burner, but like neither's Mahomes. But in what they are great competitors. And if you put the money on the table and you give them an avenue in the fourth quarter, they're gonna take it. Mahomes has done it for years, and we saw Brock do it yesterday. That was a big fourth quarter first down to pick up. Let's make no mistake about that.
That was throat-slitting time, and the 49ers, instead of inviting a path to reawaken the stadium, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of a football game breaking out in a game where we should be pulling starters, that was a big first down. I thought it was a day where we were so focused on what Brock would do, the residue of the Trey Lance nonstop conversation. I knew that offensive focus was pretty much where everyone's mind was going to be. Larry, I want to talk about a defense that wasn't even out there long enough to break a sweat almost in the entire first half. The Steelers' first 5 drives netted -9 yards on 15 plays. If you can hold any team in football to -9 yards over the course of 15 consecutive plays, you're rocking and rolling. And that defense came out dominating the line of scrimmage. They basically snuffed out the Pittsburgh Steelers' chance to even compete in that game before they even picked up a first down. It was 20-0, and it was a 5-sack afternoon for a defensive line that ate. Obviously, no one ate better than Drake Jackson, and we will talk about him, Larry. But I thought Nick Bosa proved that just being in great shape isn't necessarily football shape. I think Bosa is about to unleash holy hell on this league starting next week. He was really good. He wasn't prepared to be great. So Drake Jackson picked up that greatness, and we saw Hargrave get a sack. I think Kerry Heidler had the other of the 5 sacks, and it was just, a day for Eric Armstead. It was a day, Larry.
Cleveland Farrell on that first series.
Cleveland Farrell, hello. How are you?
Big Clee doing his thing.
Seriously. So exemplary day for a defensive line which collapsed the pocket and prevented, Najee Davis from doing anything.
Yeah, Najee Harris.
Najee Harris.
First of all, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw are what I would call in their super prime. Yeah. So Palmetto's has their superfood. Greenlaw and Warner are in the super prime. They're absolutely right.
The prime cut of the prime.
The prime of prime. The primo of prime. No, I mean, seriously, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. How about the hit that Warner had? First of all, Warner almost had a pick six, dropped it.
Yep.
Greenlaw in the second half acted like he was allowing guys to catch the ball in front of him so that he could physically hurt them. He seriously was hitting like a truck in the second half of the game. How about the Fred Warner starch hit on Najee on the first run to the left? Larry, when he tried to run it through the guard and tackle hole.
It's the kind of hit that stays in a running back's mind all day.
Exactly. It was the Ronnie Lott, Ickey Woods Super Bowl 23 hit where it's just like, hey, you're going to give me a power back running upright through the hole? Well, guess what? I'm going to smack him in the face on his very first play. I thought Warner and Greenlaw are in their super prime playing at a crazy level. And then Bosa has now got a tag team guy in Drake. Drake's going to, I said it in April, I said it in May. Drake's going to have double digits. He's going to have double-digit sacks this year. And he's a force. He's got a great motor. Now, you got him opposite Bosa. You've added Hargrave to your front. I thought Kinlaw played probably his best game in a long, long time. And the 49ers, right before our eyes, their young DBs are coming of age. Diamador Lenore put on great weight. He had 10 tackles. 8 of them were solo. Hufanga will absolutely knock the snot out of your nose. He's a big-time player. He had a tackle for a loss, a number of big hits. Ambry Thomas was strong. Mooney Ward was strong. We even saw Jair Brown make some tackles on special teams. Samuel Womack did some good things. So the young DBs are growing up, Damon. The 2 linebackers in the middle they rival Willis and Bowman. They rival anything the Niners have had. I mean, Greenlaw and Warner are right there. And then now you've got this front with double team Hargrave, double team Bosa. Drake's getting one-on-ones all day, all night. They look good. They looked really, really good on defense. And let's try to, I know there's a lot of people out there that only watch the Niners. If you don't watch the Steelers, then you didn't see them in the preseason. In the preseason, Kenny Pickett led 5 offensive drives. Those 5 offensive drives produced 5 touchdowns.
He looked like Ben Roethlisberger in the preseason.
He was great in the preseason. They got 3 good running backs. They got good weapons, good tight end, an average to above average offensive line.
Did you see?
And the Niner defense just handed them their jocks and just said, you know what? Thanks for coming. We're snuffing you out. I mean, they didn't get their first down until the 2-minute warning of the first half.
Did you see
at home
the post-game quote of Kenny Pickett? He was basically like, yeah, we moved the ball all over the place in the preseason. He's like, I think the 49ers are a little bit better than some of the teams we played in the preseason.
It's so funny that you said that because I talked to Demo Lenore last week at his locker, and I said, hey, Demo, look at the Steelers on film. What do they look like to you? Because to me, I watched all those games. They looked impressive. And with Damon, I swear to you, he said the exact same thing. He's like, well, and he's trying to be respectful. But he's like, well, nothing against those teams or anything, but, I think our defense is a little bit better than what those defenses are. And sure enough, he was right.
Look, I mean, not to go over old ground, but as you're evaluating 2 Tuesday interceptions in training camp, at no point in time was the point ever brought up, hey, this person's playing against this defense. So
right.
You're going to make more mistakes against that defense in practice than other quarterbacks make in their practices against their defenses. It's the old Harbaugh iron sharpening iron. Good morning, everyone. We have hit the 9 o'clock hour. This is 49ers Wake Up, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. We're over here exclusively on Larry's channel right now. We didn't do our homework assignment. I had to turn it in 24 hours early to get this to stream over on my channel too. We were setting it all up last night. So that'll start happening in week 2. But if there's one thing that the new media is definitely teaching me and Larry is you don't wait for perfect to come along when you got really good. And what we have is nothing short of the single best morning show to be offered coming out of the Bay Area after every single 49ers game. Larry and I will be live at 8 a.m. Today we had to go at 8:30 because I had to do a little kid juggling. But we will be going live 8 a.m. the following morning. So wake up, grab a cup, Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, get an acai bowl from Palmetto Superfoods, and we are all going to go over whatever happened the night before. And Larry, what happened yesterday, I don't think there's going to be a play that Kyle Shanahan will appreciate all season long, and I called it wide receiver downfield blocking pornography. I know it's a little early. I know it's a little early in the day to talk about masturbation, but this is the kind of film that Kyle Shanahan masturbates to. I guarantee you Kyle is going to show the downfield blocking that Brandon Ayuk And Ray did for Christian McCaffrey's longest run, the 65-yard touchdown with the 49ers. That is everything that Kyle Shanahan preaches in every film session. It's the reason why he's so hard on his wide receivers. It's one of the reasons why wide receiver is such a hard position to play on the 49ers, because you have to be built in to perform like an offensive tackle, blocking downfield in order to get reps on this team. Brandon Ayuk lit up a Pittsburgh Steeler who just didn't see it coming. And then the way that Ray waited, like felt the game coming around him and waited for McCaffrey to make a cut, which allowed him to make a cut to make sure that he didn't pick up a blocking in the back, a clipping call. As you and I pointed out yesterday, I've never heard anyone write a single sentence or talk about Ray McCloud's football IQ. That was a football IQ play. That was being aware of your surroundings, being conscious of the penalty that you might draw. And there are a few 49er defenders who play unconscious of the penalty that they might draw. So the fact that Ray laid down such a great block, a patient block, after Ayuk just blew a dude up, Christian McCaffrey's 65-yard touchdown run, it broke the Steelers' spirit, Larry, because they had a little bit of a late rally to at least salvage the first half of that game with their late touchdown. And then for the 49ers, second play of the second half, to just come on out and put one in the end zone on McCaffrey's legs. The game was over right there, essentially.
Oh, it was yeah, no doubt. Play of the game right there. First of all, McCaffrey gets loose for 65 yards. Nice little spin move, bounces it outside. And then I think it was DeMonte Casey that got blown up by Ayuk. Just as soon as CMC hit the corner, it was like Ayuk just flipped around, looked at Casey, and just said, "You're getting kicked out of the club." You know,
Trent Williams isn't going to pancake anybody that.
Oh my God, he lifted him off his cleats, and it was just incredible. Then just the other thing, what I thought in that play was, that was two guys in Brandon Ayuk and Ray McCloud, who these are the kinds of guys who show up for the W. They don't show up for the adulation, and they don't show up for the fame. They don't show up for the bag. They show up for the W. Those are the guys who, I mean, Ray is playing with a healing broken wrist. He was supposed to be out like 6 weeks. Here he is, right. Week 1, no cast on his broken wrist, out there playing football because he loves it. And Ayuk loves to block.
Blocks. I mean, really.
It was, and not only that, when you know football, when your receivers block with a vengeance down the field, that means you got a good chemistry going, man. That means they're all about the W. They're not about themselves.
It's the path.
And it was a beautiful play.
It's a path to an explosive play. Downfield blocking by your wide receivers is what creates explosive plays in your running game, as much as the blocking up front does. And again, this is the stuff that Kyle Shanahan watches while he's touching himself. Okay.
Brandon the Decleater Ayuk, according to Jan Chosela.
I promise you, Kyle's going to show that 40 times in film breakdowns this week to the 49ers.
You know who's going to show it there's the Niners have a saying. Now, it's a Bobby T saying, and it's really about running backs, but it's the same thing for the receivers. No block, no rock, right? Yeah. You want the ball, you got to block. And, especially Damon on a day where Brandon Ayuk showed that he's one of the great young wide receivers in this league. He had a bust-out performance of his own, and here's the big play in the second half. And you're right. By the way, I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but I thought that illegal contact penalty at the end of the first half on Timo Lenore was so ticky-tack. It just reeked of, hey, you know what? If the Steelers can make this 20-7, 35% more TV audience returns to their TV in the third quarter. If it's 20-0, oh, this game, they're turning off the TVs in every market outside of San Francisco or Pittsburgh. But if you can make it 20-7, oh my God, we'll retain the audience. And I've never said that the NFL's fixed, but I do think it's manipulated to retain the TV audience into the second half. And I think that was a perfect example. That was a ticky-tack call. In fact, if you go back to the last 5 minutes of the first half, the Niners got some really ticky-tack calls on their final drive. They could have gone up 27-0, and instead they find a way to get to the locker room at 20-7. And so the game's kind of hanging in the balance. The Steeler fans are sitting there going, hey, wait a second. Are we going to get back into this thing? And literally, they're not even back from the bathroom at halftime. And McCaffrey's in the end zone. It's 27-7. And it was the kind of play that says, not today, Steeler fans, right? I mean, it was the kind of play that was like, you know what? The rest of the day is just for day drinking and talking because there's no chance of a victory.
The Steelers had one thing going for them yesterday, and it was T.J. Watt. And we'll get to Colton McKivitz this afternoon. You know, everyone's got to come away with the worst performance in an all-around great team performance. Right. And he gets to wear that crown today. But it's a little unfair, and we'll get to all that in a minute. But just to kind of put a bow on McCaffrey's afternoon, 22 carries, 152 yards, and a touchdown, including the playoffs now. McCaffrey has scored one or more touchdowns in 10 consecutive games, which is the longest streak of any active NFL player. And it ties the second longest streak by a member of the 49ers going back to Freddie Solomon in 84, who put 10 games of I scored a touchdown together in a row, including a postseason game. Christian McCaffrey is all day and all night long special. He is maybe the most uniquely, singularly special player on a team that is built upon the backs of special players. He is extraordinary. He is absolutely extraordinary. And there wasn't a moment where I was watching him last year where I couldn't help but almost be down on myself for not understanding how good he really was. Let's face it, beyond highlights, we don't get a lot of Carolina Panthers football out here, so you didn't really see how good he was on the plays that were only 4 or 5 yard gains. And you saw him push piles. And, you know, the stuff that doesn't make the highlight reel is another example of why Christian McCaffrey is so good at what he does. Yes, there's the 65-yard touchdown run with the great downfield blocking in front of him. But there's also the, you know, he got clipped in that backfield a little and he still got 6 yards out of that. I mean, he still got 5 yards out of that. He turned nothing into 3 yards. He's always fallen forward unless he just straight up gets, you know, bullied and stuck behind the line of scrimmage, which happened a couple times yesterday. But
the Niners, Damon, are 13-1 since they acquired Christian McCaffrey. 13-1.
Feels like there's a little correlation there, right?
Seriously. But man, maybe the Niners, even though a lot of us would, you know, sit there and think about 2017's draft and say, Solomon Thomas, you should have gotten Mahomes. I really think many of those years when Solly was kind of just showing that he was a try-hard backup, I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, when they were looking back at that draft going, we should have taken Christian McCaffrey.
What'd we do?
He went 8th, I think, to Carolina. They had the 3rd pick. They you know, because they wanted to wait on Cousins. Heck, according to the Mike Shanahan, they offered that pick to the Commanders for Cousins, except the Commanders, you know, Dan Schneider didn't want to deal with him at the time.
Right.
But looking back on it, I mean, Christian McCaffrey was the perfect addition. You know, the Niners have screwed up some of the high draft picks for sure. Where John Lynch has been really good in this regime are the in-season trades. Emmanuel Sanders, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Willis, Charles Omenihu. In season, they do a real good job at identifying pieces that they need that fit their puzzle and then pulling the trigger and getting McCaffrey. It's funny, too. I did an interview with a Niner beat writer one day before the trade deadline last year, and I said to him, hey, you know, what do you think of the Niners trading for Christian McCaffrey? He's like, nah. And I said, why? He goes, they don't need him. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, well, yeah, they don't. What do you mean they don't need him? Well, they got Jeff Wilson and they've got Raheem Mostert. They don't need McCaffrey.
Elijah
I'm
Mitchell.
like, yeah, they got Elijah Mitchell. They don't need him. And, credit John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Because let's be honest, Damon, you think of all the great Super Bowl teams, almost without fail, they all have really special people who handle the football. Chiefs right now, Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek before that. The Patriots all those years. You can say what you want. Tom Brady, Edelman, Gronk. Go back to the Cowboys. What made the Cowboys in the 90s? Emmett, Michael, Aikman, Novacek. What made Steve Young's Niners the last Super Bowl champion? Bar none. Waters, Jones, Rice, Taylor, Young. When the Niners won with Montana, take out Waters, take out Floyd, put in Roger, put in Rathman. Basically, it's the same receiving crew. You need to have, Peyton Manning won in Indy. He had Harrison and Wayne and Edgerrin and Dallas Clark. The guys who handle the football, you want to change your football team, change the guys who touch the ball, and you will have that's the fastest way to turn your team around. And the Niners didn't need McCaffrey, Damon, but you know what? John Lynch is like, you know what? He's a difference maker. Shanahan said he's a difference maker. They worked out the trade. They're 13-1 since.
My buddy John Clark in college used to have a Ricky Waters jersey, and he used to put it on and do a Ricky Waters impression. He'd run around and going, I only need the ball 35 times to be effective.
Ricky Waters is one of my favorite guys now because I got a chance to meet him through Dennis Brown, who's one of Ricky's good buddies, and he came out to the fourth bore with us out in Orinda. We were doing the post game the last couple of years, and we were sitting there one night, having a couple drinks and talking Niner ball after one of the post games. Ricky Waters is one of the most cool, chill, down-to-earth guys.
Yeah, I met him.
He's awesome, man.
I met him in a love Ricky Waters setting once too, and had a great time talking to Ricky Waters.
Yeah,
I need the ball 35 times to be effective.
He's incredible. Guy's incredible, and he was. I mean, think about it. In a lot of ways, what was the Niners won with Mike Shanahan? That was the last time they won. Mike Shanahan was the OC. Mm-hmm. What did they have? They had a great number one receiver in Jerry Rice. They had an awesome receiving running back in Ricky Waters. What do they got now? They got an awesome number one receiver in Brandon Ayuk. They got an awesome number one running back who's more of a receiving threat in CMC. So, yeah, the only thing I would have said about CMC I didn't like yesterday is I would like to see CMC's touches brought down to 10. I mean, he had 25 touches. Where the next Niner, I think, who had 8, and I'd like to see J.P. Mason. I'd like to see Elijah Mitchell. I'd like to see Debo run it a few more times. I'd like to diversify the carries a little bit.
There's going to be times where Christian McCaffrey needs more than 22 carries. Those are going to be football games that are fourth quarter football games. This wasn't a football game in the fourth quarter. He shouldn't have had a single touch. Like I just said, somebody needs to go and just grab his helmet. And, the coach can't put him in if he doesn't have his helmet. And you got other guys there. And, the whole he's trying to build up calluses. Well, you don't build up callus in one workout in one day. It's over time. And in a game that left you with very little to complain about, I even thought maybe a Sam Darnold late fourth quarter appearance might have been in order. That's how lopsided that game was at the end of it. We're talking about outstanding players. We're thrilled to have you here on 49ers Wake Up. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. We will be telling you all season long about acai bowls and how delicious they are and how good they are for you. But, Larry, when you and I were eating these on Saturday, trying them for the first time, you said it perfectly. He said, we don't need to sell these things. They officially sell themselves. All you need to do is try one and you'll be convinced. And you and I were both convinced. We're thrilled to welcome Palmetto Superfoods into what we're building. Every single day after a 49ers game, Larry and I will be up and on YouTube here, streaming on both of our channels. We'll figure out how to get it over on mine. But it's going to be the best 49er wake-up show you're getting anywhere the day after the 49ers play. And one of the things that I wanted to share, Larry, is we're talking about outstanding players, outstanding performances, and maybe touch on a few names that, no matter how good they are, they get left at the back of the conversation. You and I could probably sit around talking about the 49ers defense, the defensive line, and Bosa and Drake Jackson and Hargrave and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And we might have left the best player on the team out of the conversation. Dude, Talanoa Hufanga. Dude, Talanoa Hufanga is right there on that one line with the best safeties in football, with Jamal Adams and Derwin James and Micah Fitzpatrick. Minka. This guy is special. He's special, and he's got that trait, Larry, built into him that all the great defensive players of my lifetime have built into them. And that is simply, boy, they're always around the ball. There's something to be said about the player defensively who's always around the ball. The ball's always finding them. They're always finding the ball. They're just always around the play, the pile, the ball, the tackle, the catch, the receive, the play in the backfield. Like, this guy is in my TV frame all freaking afternoon. And that's Talanoa Hufanga, who had a 5-tackle.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. He had a 5-tackle, 1 sack, and 1 attempted lateral, which was my second favorite play of the game. Look, when you're going off on a football field and you're looking good, feeling good, playing good, that's when your mind says, I'm going to try this shit. And Talanoa Hufanga did something that will never be recommended to do again in any film study session Kyle Shanahan or Steve Wilkes ever puts in front of him. But football players try to make football plays, and he tried to be downfield running an option pitch back. And it was a forward lateral, obviously. But this guy's a player, Larry. He's got instincts. He's constantly around the football. And what more could you ask for in a safety? A guy.
Wow, what a great player. What a great player he is. And he's a great person. This is the guy you want to marry your daughter. This guy is he's as solid as they get.
Yeah.
5th round pick. And once again, proof that throw out your measurables, throw out your workout numbers, and watch the film. This guy was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. This guy was the 2017 Polynesian High School National Player of the Year in high school. He went to Crescent Valley High School. He is a great, great player. It's funny. He was an all-pro player last year. He had some really high-profile games early in the year. Go back and look at what he did last year against the Bears at Soldier. He was awesome in that game. So he's really, really good early in the year. Hopefully he can maintain his his energy level throughout the year, because I think he loses a little energy as the year goes on. But the instincts are off the charts. And it just kind of goes to show, who cares if a guy runs 4.6 or 4.7 and not 4.3 if he plays fast? In these instinctive positions in the middle of the field, if you're fast and you have bad instincts, you're just further away from the play. If you have good instincts, you're always flowing towards the football, and that's him. He flows to the football. He plays with leverage. He plays with intellect. He's always on balance. He fell off some tackles and some sacks late in the year, but he is a big-time hitter. And what I love about him is that he's on time, right? He shows up when you're going to have a heavy rush up front, or if you're going to send a 5-man pressure or a 6-man pressure. If you're going to have a big-time defense, your back end has to be tied together. So your safety's got to arrive at the receiver right as the ball's coming out, and that's what this guy does. It's uncanny. So his timing in the run game, his tackling ability, Hufanga's special. He really is a special player.
Yet, Larry? Did Steve Wilkes dial up a blitz yesterday? I don't remember a blitz. I'm sure he did at one point in time.
He did, but it was he got it done almost most of the day with his front four, but they did send some extra pressure.
They played base and they dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't say the words physically dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers often. Not even when the Steelers are down, not even when they're having a bad year.
I know. No, this guy, he hits hard, but he's got great instincts. He's just a very, very special player. He really is.
Look, it's great to have you in here, 49ers fans. This is your 49ers Wake Up. Join Damon, Bruce, Larry Krueger the morning after every single 49ers game this year. Whenever the 49ers are playing, you know that at 8 a.m. the next morning, Larry and I are going to be right here doing this. We're brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods, and we will show you the beautiful acai bowl a little bit later on. It really does. It sells itself. We're going to be doing day after post game, if you will, Larry. And I want to stay in the Steelers game. You and I do a very good job staying in the moment, in the vacuum of the game. And we don't do a lot of projection, radio, YouTubing, whatever the hell we're doing now. But I do want to say this, and I wrote this down last night, not to get ahead of ourselves here, but the path to a 4-0 start is absolutely now laid out in front of this 49ers team. You have to see it and you have to acknowledge it. The biggest stumbling block to a 4-0 start, supposedly by all the handicappers, was week 1. Simply week 1 in Pittsburgh was going to be more of an uphill climb than the 49ers might be able to handle right out of the gate, especially with all the Bosa and Lance drama and everything that rolled into the beginning of the season. So now the job is clear. After picking up maybe the most surprising win of the NFL's Sunday schedule yesterday, the Rams with a very impressive win up in Seattle, a division win.
Puka Nacua, who knew?
Yeah, so look, Sean McVay is out there rolling up some serious yards with guys you've never even freaking heard of before. So we'll get to that. We'll go through a little bit of the Sunday slate here as we move along. But the 49ers, they go and get a win at Candlestick South on Sunday. That's what I call SoFi Stadium. That's Candlestick South. They will be picked to beat the Rams, even after the Rams had a very impressive performance. I think the line is already at 5.5. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's more. I think they're a touchdown favorite now.
Probably moved more after that performance yesterday. Look, the New York Giants are a lot better than they showed last night, but they just lost 40-0 to 40-0. So like that should be a little bit of an easier turnaround on a short week for a Thursday nighter in the Niners home opener at Levi's than you might have thought before we saw it last night. And then look, after that, it's the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are built to stink this year. Larry, that's a 4-0 start. There's a 4.
Well, I mean, okay,
here's why that would be significant. Hold on, I'm just going to share this with you, and then you can counterpoint, because there is a counterpoint to be made. Nothing is assumed or guaranteed in football. It's why the league is so great. But there is a clear path to a 4-0 start, and historically, since 1990, teams that start 4-0 go to the postseason 84% of the time. So that's just a really nice early season box to have ticked off for a year for the 49ers, which, let's be totally honest about what we're looking at. Even though the season started yesterday, the 49ers season officially begins in the NFC title game this year. That's the level of expectation attached to this team. So the season starts in the NFC title game, and you better damn well put yourself in the Super Bowl after you win that. And then there is no guaranteed Super Bowl win, but you got to get in there and fight for it. And that's the goal. Go win the Super Bowl. Get a chance to fight for the Super Bowl this year. And a 4-0 start almost puts them in the barn before we even reach the bye week. So it's just, of course, football happens, injuries happens, everything can change in 13 more games after a 4-0 start, but the path is there and it's clear now.
Well, they play Philly December 3rd, and I think there's a very good chance they could go into that game with either being undefeated or being a 1 or 2 loss football team. And that's, as I said, that's December. That's first week in December.
That's what you're looking for.
But the thing about this next week game against the Rams are not a good team, but the Rams are not a good team because their cap has screwed up and now they're not very deep. But it's early in the year, and now you're playing a game early in the year in their stadium. It's going to be a tough game next week. This Rams team, if you got them, you wanted them late in the year, and the Niners got them early in the year. Just a couple things that stood out from their game yesterday against Seattle. Tutu Atwell might be the fastest receiver in the game. He's tiny, but he's blazing fast. And so he's a player. Puka Nacua is the rookie from BYU. And obviously they have no Cooper Kupp right now. But Nacua was a very productive player, and there were people in the draft. The Niners looked at him very seriously in the draft. He's a 6'2", 205-pound wide receiver with just crazy ball skills. So you've got those two guys outside. Atwell's the deep threat. Nacua had 15 targets yesterday. They targeted him 15 times, and that's got to be among the most in the entire league. The other thing the Rams have is the Rams got 7 hits on the quarterback. So they were in the backfield, and their rookie edge guy, Byron Young, who played at Tennessee, is a real player. He had a half a sack. He had 2 hits on the quarterback. He had 4 tackles. 3 of them were solo. So, and then the Notre Dame running back, Kyron Williams, is not bad either.
2 touchdowns.
I don't think he's great. Don't get me wrong. But he's not bad. So, I mean, they're not going to be able to just roll their jocks out there and beat the Rams. They're going to have to play, take care of the football and, be smart about things. But, yeah, if you look at the schedule, okay, so they go Rams, then they go New York Giants, and that's the home opener on a Thursday night. The Thursday night games always favor the home team. Niners are home. Then they get Arizona in a rebuilding year. Then they get Dallas in October at home. That's going to be a tough game, primetime game, Sunday Night Football, nation watching. Then they go road at Cleveland and road at Minnesota. Both those teams, Cleveland got a nice win yesterday. Minnesota didn't look very good. Then they have Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's got a major rest advantage in week 8. So that on paper is probably going to be tougher than you think. Then they get the bye week. Then they get at Jacksonville, home against Tampa, at Seattle, and then December 3rd at the Link against the Eagles. I think there's a very good chance the Niners are 9-2 or 10-1 going into that game.
Well, and look, they will have a home field advantage at SoFi Stadium. They've had one in every game that they've played down there, including the NFC title game. It's going to be blanketed in red jerseys. The 49ers fans take that place over. But McVay, let me tell you, a year after everyone downgrading McVay, the guy can coach. I mean, straight up, he really can. He ran 32 more plays than Pete Carroll did yesterday. He had the ball for nearly twice as long. And Seattle just folded against a defense that is basically Aaron Donald and company. Aaron Donald and company played pretty well yesterday. On paper, the Rams defense isn't supposed to do what it did up in Seattle. So maybe there is a little something more there to be taken seriously than anyone thought. A healthy Matthew Stafford is a dangerous Matthew Stafford. I don't care if his wife says this team doesn't fit or not. It fit yesterday. And Sean McVay knows how to coach him up. Like you said, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, these are not household names, and they had big games yesterday. So
they had 2-1 time of possession. Rams held the ball for 40 minutes.
Right.
40 minutes. That's hard to do in an NFL game.
Be a grounded out, ground and pound.
And they didn't. They threw for 344. But how about this? Seattle had 95 yards passing all day. And you know what? Nobody said anything about this because it's like, hey, Seattle. Seattle. There were so many people. Louis Riddick stumbling over himself like 19 different ways to pick Seattle throughout the year. And by the way, Bobby Wagner in his return to Seattle against his former Rams team, because he played for them last, 19 tackles yesterday for Bobby Wagner.
You got to respect Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner, 19 tackles. Him and Jordan Brooks combined for over 30 tackles. So, I mean, those two guys, but Seattle's still not very good against the run. The Rams just don't have a powerful run game. The Rams only averaged 2.3 a carry, but Seattle's not great against the run, and they didn't have Witherspoon, the rookie first-round pick. I didn't expect Stafford with no Cooper Kupp to light them up, but sure enough, he did. So I'll tell you this. I know a lot of people's takeaway from that game, Damon, is, man, the Rams. But to me, that was like, I think it was really a great game because it showed that Rams are, they surprised people. Atwell and Nakua will not surprise the Niners next week. And yet Seattle, Geno didn't look all that great. Seattle's run D is maybe not a whole lot better, and their pass D is supposed to be a lot better. Maybe it's not. So we'll see. We'll see. I didn't go, oh no, Rams. I went, oh good, Seattle's not as good as we think.
Right. No, I kind of walked away saying the same thing. But, Sean McVay finds a couple players and things can happen in a football game that he's coaching.
He's a good coach, especially
really,
early.
really good. Yeah. Luckily, Kyle Shanahan's got it over him in the regular season.
Seriously, Kyle's got ownage on McVay. McVay's got the ring that Kyle seeks, but Kyle's got the ownage head-to-head.
By the way, we just crossed into 9:30 here on the West Coast, Larry. Let me welcome everyone again to your 49ers Wake Up. Damon Bruce and Larry Krueger. The day after every single 49ers game, Larry and I are going to be here bright and early, 8 a.m. So grab your coffee, grab your acai bowl, and get ready to break it all down. We're brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods, our exclusive sponsor here of 49ers Wake Up. We're thrilled to have them aboard. It's a great partnership. And on your chat, Larry, a gentleman named Pedro says, acai is amazing, but it's a dessert, not healthy the way that it's sold. It's still amazing like an ice cream. Pedro, you haven't been to Palmetto. You can get craptastic, sugar-infused, totally not healthy acai bowls, or you can go to Palmetto and eat the real McCoy. It is not a sugar bomb. It's flavored with, bananas. And again, I can't believe that this is the pitch that we've got here on the show. But Larry, we're healthy. We're healthy boys.
Hey, we're gonna pound our acai bowl, and then we're gonna go do some yoga and come back here and stream in the afternoon.
We're gonna go do some goat yoga. We're gonna have goats balancing on our backs as we're planking. And Larry and I decked out in Lululemons. It's gonna be beautiful.
Oh, you're going to love it.
It's beautiful to have everyone here today. The 49ers completely manhandled the Pittsburgh Steelers in one of the loudest statements made in football. Larry, we began the show by saying, but for the New York Giants, maybe nobody looked better than the 49ers. The reason why I'll give the Dallas Cowboys, what they did to the New York Giants last night. The reason why I'll just give Dallas the, salute is they didn't have that let-up moment for a moment the way that the 49ers did. Diamador Lenore's ticky-tack personal foul on the sideline was one of the biggest chunk plays of the day for the Steelers, and I think really helped them score that touchdown just before halftime. The Dallas Cowboys didn't have anyone make that mistake that gave life to the Giants in any way, shape, or form. The 49ers, but for a drive, played a 4-quarter game. The Dallas Cowboys played a complete 4-quarter game in New York last night. But look, I mean, we're cutting hairs here, trying to measure who looked better, who was the bigger statement win. I think we're looking at
who was the better opponent?
Well, again, we're just 1 week in. I think Steelers are going to be a lot better than the Giants. But I think the New York Giants are going to be a lot better than they were last night. They're not going to be that bad. They're not going to go 0-17, getting shut out week after week after week. Dayball can coach.
No, but
Barkley can run. They got players. Daniel Jones is an experiment, obviously, but
the Giants, the Cowboys own the Giants. I think the Cowboys have beaten the Giants 6 times in a row or something like that.
12 out of 13. It's a big number.
Yeah, there's ownage there in their division opponents, and the Giants fell behind, and it kind of snowballed on them. I agree. I mean, the Giant, but Daniel Jones at the end of the day is still Daniel Jones. He had 2 fumbles last night. He recovered both of them, but he's a fumbling machine. He's a turnover machine. He had 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions.
Well, to get it back,
that's the thing. I mean, he was better last year under Daboll, but are we going to see a regression to the mean, or is Daniel Jones Daniel Jones? And last night he looked like the turnover Daniel Jones that we saw pre-Sable. And I don't know. I mean, I like New York. I like Saquon Barkley. I like some of the talent they have. They could be the third team in the NFC, but I really think the NFC is a two-team deal. Though Detroit looked pretty good, obviously beating Kansas City, but Dallas is explosive. Dallas only really has one running back. They've got Tony Pollard. He had 14 touches. The rest of their running backs, Rico Dowdell, Cavante Turpin, the tiny guy out of K-State, Deuce Vaughn. They don't have a second back. I'll tell you where I'll get nervous about Dallas is if Dallas can get Jonathan Taylor. If somehow the Cowboys can trade for Jonathan Taylor, who's probably going to be dealt here in about a month, when it's
they started him on the pup and he's not hurt.
Right, but I mean he'll be out a month, so
right.
Nobody's going to trade for him now. But he is probably going to get traded. Miami wants him. Who knows who else will want him?
Can you
Dallas? I mean, like
pup list? Don't they have to be taken off the pup list before you can deal them? Like
I believe so, but I mean the trade deadline is not till November 1st.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I don't know how the Niner backfield's going to look this year, but I really, if I were John Lynch, I would really look at if I could find a way to add Jonathan Taylor just to keep him from where he's going. Because the reality is, from what I've heard, Kansas City would love to have him to pair with Pacheco. The Eagles would love to have him. They just lost Miles Sanders.
Miami was interested.
Miami wants him, and the Cowboys, the Cowboys, especially if Pollard has any kind of an injury, and Pollard is he's not the every down, mail carrier back. He's not Zeke in his prime. He's a change of pace back. That's what he is. And for the Cowboys, he has to be their primary back. If I was John Lynch and I saw Dallas, for the clouds circling on Jonathan Taylor, I would figure out a way to make that happen and to bring him here. Just as the block move, because now the Niners are in rarefied air. Let's be honest. They're in an area right now where they're not concerned with every team in pro football. They're not. They should be concerned with Dallas and Philly, Detroit, and Kansas City.
Right, and your AFC elites who you might meet in the Super Bowl
Buffalo,
should this year go according to plan.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this, the other takeaway, there was a great article on ESPN.com today about Bill Barnwell talking about how just, one game in, 1 week in, and it's like, what the heck's going on with the Bengals? You look at Kansas City without Chris Jones, they don't quite look the same. The Vikings look really bad.
But here's the thing: it's
Seattle looked really bad.
It's week one, and the secret of what you and I do well is not get too high, not get too low. There's no reason to overreact to anything, and there's no reason to declare anybody dead on arrival after week one, even a team that lost 40-0 last night on Sunday Night Football.
Now, I've never been accused of being too low. I've never been accused of being too low, Damon. I have been accused a couple times of being too high.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why it works between you and me right there. By the way, if I showed you the ganja jar, has anyone put a super chat in the ganja jar yet? Go ahead and fill that bad boy up. Look, Larry, I got my friend Michelle Haberman saying I did not have acai bowls on my Damon Bruce bingo card. No, you probably didn't. And to be totally honest with you, Michelle, neither did I. They found Larry and I because they want a whole bunch of dudes to learn about something that they might not know about. If people don't like to order food they don't even know how to pronounce. I didn't even know how to say acai, and I had to practice it to make sure I'm saying it correctly. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what it was, and I don't want things when I don't know what they are. So this is what advertising and promotion does. It exposes you to new products. I'm telling you, this acai bowl at Palmetto Superfoods is special. It's good. It's delicious. Larry and I will be talking about it all season long. Thanks again to Palmetto for being the sponsor of 49ers Wake Up. Every single coach is looking for something to coach up Tuesday through Saturday, Larry. Monday is an off day for players after game day. One of the things that Brock Purdy needs to correct, and you could say, well, this isn't all on him, but You talk about Daniel Jones with 2 fumbles. Brock Purdy had 2 fumbles yesterday, and he did lose one of them. And I thought that the biggest demerit to give Brock on any play was when he didn't feel TJ Watt, knowing that he was out there and having his way with Colton McKivitz. And this is a little bit of a demerit I want to give Kyle as well on an exemplary day. The only thing preventing the A+, everyone gets an A. That's good. But you can't get an A+, because I did think that Kyle's blind spot was leaving Colton McKivitz on an island against, the first or second best edge rusher in football. The 2 best edge rushers in football were on the field yesterday, basically, and Nick Bosa and TJ Watt. And to leave Colton McKivitz out there on TJ Watt Island is a good way to get your quarterback hurt. And I thought that it was obvious you needed to have somebody in there chipping and helping. And Kyle Juszczyk is on TJ Watt red alert all day long. I thought Kyle might have got a little coaching arrogant and thought that McKivitz could have handled that. It was a bad day for McKivitz. He's the guy that everyone is kicking around as the player who had the worst game in an otherwise exemplary game for the 49ers. But I didn't think it was just Colton McKivitz's fault. I thought that Kyle let him down a little bit. I thought that Brock didn't feel pressure, and this is a guy who does feel and move around the quarterback well, move around the pocket well, I guess I should say. But it was that was the one that needs to improve. That's a coachable moment. This is what Kyle will be working on this week with his team. TJ Watt special. I mean, there's just no other way to say it.
Yeah, I mean, let's call it for what it is. We're talking about a player who last year was hurt, right? He had 5.5 sacks in 10 games. The year before, he was Bosa. He was the defensive player of the year. He had 22.5 sacks. And the year before that, he had 15. And the year before that, he had 14.5. And the year before that, he had 13. This guy's got, he's going to be approaching 100 sacks, and he's not even old. I mean, TJ Watt's a young man at this point. He's still in his prime of his career. He's headed to Canton. He's a very special player. Colton McKivitz, if you had asked me in the pregame, okay, Steelers, what's your number one concern with the Steelers? My number one concern is that they had 4 edge rushers that were all dangerous. Highsmith's in his prime. TJ Watt is a superstar. Marcus Golden, all Niner fans know Marcus Golden is a Niner killer. And then the talk of Steeler preseason was the rookie linebacker out of Wisconsin, whose brother played at Stanford, Nick Herbig, whose brother, the Big Island, Nate Herbig, is on the Steeler offensive line. So now they have both brothers, and Nick is awesome and had an incredible preseason. So this was really a scary thing for me. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be Brock Purdy's going to get sacked all day and every day. He's going to be hit all day and every day. If you had told me in pregame the Steelers are going to have 3 sacks and 7 hits on the quarterback, I would have taken it. I would have said, you know what? Deal. Because the number I feared was 6 sacks and 15 hits on the quarterback. But let's add it up. If you go 7 sacks or 7 quarterback hits, if your quarterback's getting hit 7 times, that equates to 119 hits over the full course of a season. That's too damn many. So there were 2 problems with the Niners yesterday that I could see. Too many penalties, and some bogus ones, by the way, but too many penalties. And Colton McKivitz at times struggled with TJ Watt. And TJ Watt's
right tackles will.
TJ Watt's a monster.
Yeah.
And Highsmith on the other side is going to have a huge year as well. I would say, if you said to me, TJ Watt, predict a number, I would say 20. I would say he's going to have 20 sacks this year.
He's an A+ at his position. He's the only player that you could really make an argument is maybe better than Nick Bosa. He's that good. He's that good. It's Watt or Bosa who had the better afternoon. There's your best edge rusher. They're really talented. They're fabulous players, and I thought that Kyle needed to do more to help Colton McKivitz through his first start at right tackle. And to me, the similarity that he has with Mike McGlinchey is that He's pretty good, actually. I thought Colton McKivitz was better than whatever his Pro Football Focus game score is going to be. He's probably going to have the worst grade of any 49er player. His lowlights are 10 times worse than his highlights. And that is the sin that haunted Mike McGlinchey. Like, Mike McGlinchey would play 100 snaps. 97 of them would be pretty damn good. But the 3 snaps that went against him, he's literally getting like ragdolled out there. And it was a massive low light from McGlinchey.
He had one major flaw. McGlinchey's major flaw is that he couldn't kick step out fast enough for the speed rushers. And he knew it, right? He knew it.
Right.
So what would happen is that he would lunge.
Yep.
And he would lose balance. And then he'd get clubbed on his inside shoulder. And now he's parallel to the ground. And so everybody saw his highlight blunders, the low lights, if you will, and said, you know what? This guy's terrible. But in reality, he was a really above average run blocker. And he just was not a great pass protector. Now, I think McKivitz is going to be better. This was baptism by fire. I mean, I said to him last week in the locker room, I'm like, hey, welcome to week 1, TJ Watt. And that's all. I didn't even ask him a question. I'm like, welcome to week 1, TJ Watt. And he's like, yeah. And he started laughing. What I like about Colton is he doesn't get worried. He didn't have an all-time nightmare game. But, I agree with you. They probably should have helped him a little bit more. And, in a day where there was nothing but incredible positives, it's easy to point to him. And maybe the only thing about it I would say is if you have offensive tackle problems, we'll get used to it because there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, nobody's going to trade you a good offensive tackle who's ready to roll right now.
Right.
Even at the trade deadline. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, it happens so infrequently that it's almost like you just can't bank on that. You might have to just figure out a way to coach up Colton and help him as much as you can.
49ers 30-7. The 23-point difference is the worst home loss for Pittsburgh under Mike Tomlin. And he's been there for 15 years. That was the worst home loss of Mike Tomlin's career. That is quite a statement by the San Francisco 49ers. And Brock Purdy, again, just in case you didn't see this, you're the one person who hasn't caught this piece of information yet. That's why Larry and I are coming to you day after every single 49ers game on 49er Wake Up, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. Brock Purdy was 19-29, 65.5%, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a passer rating of 111.3. With the 49ers win and 2 touchdown passes on the day, Purdy became the first quarterback in NFL history to win his first 6 career regular season starts and throw at least 2 touchdown passes in each of those games. With a passer rating of 111.3, Purdy has now become the first quarterback in NFL history to register a passer rating of 95 or higher in each of his first 6 career regular season starts. Going back to preseason, you and I just doing shows together and ramping up for the year. You and I did a segment, Larry, about Kyle Shanahan being a quarterback whisperer. And I asked you what you thought that meant. And there were really quarterback whisperers come in different flavors. There's the quarterback whisperer who takes the raw ball of clay and turns them into a quarterback. And then there's the coach who takes the sort of developed quarterback and brings them into the best version of themselves. That to me is what Kyle does. That's what his offense allows quarterbacks to be, the best version of themselves. And let's be totally honest, we saw this with CJ Beathard. We've seen this with quarterbacks who are not significant NFL entities. So it's a great start for Brock Purdy. That's all it is. But there is something there that feels a lot more tangible than the other quarterbacks we have seen. And there was a reason why, the transition from Garoppolo to Purdy was borderline seamless, because Shanahan knows how to put quarterbacks in good positions. And, you know, Purdy is smart enough to take advantage of what his coach is handing him on a platter, which is usually a wide open target on just about every play. Brandon Ayuk was having way too much of an afternoon to be having that kind of an afternoon deep into a game. You know what I mean? Like, this Pittsburgh Steelers got to be like, okay, so who's got Brandon? Who's got Brandon Ayuk?
By the way, 8 targets for Ayuk,
catches.
8 catches.
Yeah. He was wide open, Larry. Wide open. I mean, 5 yards green around him every direction, which in the NFL might as well be a country mile. I mean, he had ridiculous separation. I thought at one point Kittle was actually going to get flagged for a downfield rub and a pick, but he didn't. Kyle's got this offense timed down well, and he gets the best out of his quarterbacks, whether they be Jimmy Garoppolo or C.J. Beathard or Nick Mullins or Brock Purdy. You know, he's gotten the best out of these guys, and he's not a quarterback whisperer in that you can't just hand him some super raw guy and say, hey, develop this guy. I don't think that's his skill set. I really don't. I think his skill set is he's a phenomenal play caller. He's a phenomenal play sequencer. His play action game works. Greg Cosell for years would call it the play action fusion game because the plays look identical, and he's so good at making you, with all this pre-snap motion and shifting, that you're playing with all this eye candy, and then here comes something else. And he's just a really, really good offensive play caller whose offense produces points. But he's not a he's not Mike Holmgren. He's not one of these, quarterback developers. He's got to have a guy who knows how to play. And that's why all the people that were ripping Shanahan and Purdy this offseason were just destined to look so horrible. Why? Because look, you've got all the boxes checked. You've got a scheme that works with a guy who can flat out call plays in Kyle Shanahan. That box checked. You've got a quarterback who's smart. The ball comes out on time with accuracy. That box checked. And then you have a collection of weapons that are in amazing shape. Debo and CMC are in the best shape of their life. Ayuk said it a year ago or going into this year, I'm ready for liftoff. You could see it all summer. Brandon Ayuk was the best player on the field on either offense or defense all summer long. And what was he yesterday? The best player on the field. You're right. He was wide open. The other thing that you never notice until you realize it after a while, how many times did Jimmy Garoppolo in the middle of the field throw a ball to his receiver only to see his receiver just take a monster hit? Yeah.
It happened all the time. He
led the NFL in hospital balls.
He was constantly running his receivers into detonating monster hits. Brock Purdy not only gets the ball in the middle of the field to these guys, he'll always throw it where they're just past the defender, where the defender's on their hip, and they're not. He doesn't lead his receivers into coverage. He leads them out of coverage. So he throws with anticipation, something Steve Young and I have talked about for years. It's like the rarest trait to be accurate and on time. But then if you can find a guy who's accurate on time and will throw, make the anticipatory throws and lead you to the open space instead of leading you into the double coverage, now you got something. So you got the quarterback who now knows the offense and is smart, and the ball comes out accurately and on time. You've got the play caller who's an expert at producing. Heck, if you believe that guy Rollins who made the video, he said that Shanahan produced an 80% intermediate completion percentage for Jimmy Garoppolo. If he can get Jimmy Garoppolo to complete 80%, and then Jimmy doesn't even have near the play action or bootleg ability or movement ability that Brock does, and you can surround Brock and these great play calls with an array of weapons that's almost second to none and a top-tier defense, it's like, dude, You're really going to spend a lot of time saying that Shanahan's not good and that Purdy's not good, and that come on, you got all the boxes checked. I mean, the Niners have scored 30 a game with Brock Purdy, and they scored 30 again yesterday against a damn good defense in their place.
Well, and look,
so that's why they're going with Purdy. Is because how are you going to win a Super Bowl in a league that has Patrick Mahomes? You have to have a killer defense and be able to score 30 points a game. With Brock Purdy, they have an offense that can score 30 a game, and they have a killer defense. So with Brock Purdy and the rest of this collection of talent, the Niners are a Super Bowl contender.
And that's the thing, people who say, well, it's not Brock, it's Christian McCaffrey. It's not Christian McCaffrey, it's all the other targets. It's not all the targets, it's the offense. It all works together, folks. There's no one person doing it out there all alone. And Patrick Mahomes will be the first to tell you, because he got put out there in a, hey, Patrick, you're all alone. Go beat the Detroit Lions situation. And he couldn't. It takes help. You got to have talent everywhere. And this is the secret sauce of the San Francisco 49ers. They have a loaded roster.
And the most cap room of any team in the league.
NFL. We'll get to all of that in a second, Larry. I kind of want to wrap up today's show with that, because that's going to be our last bit of speculation before we send everybody out to their Monday morning here. Biggest NFL stories from week one, coming out of week one. And again, remember, there is an awful lot of overreaction to the positive and the negative after any week one. But football games are very important in the vacuum of any game. These are precious things. There's only 17 of them. Look, Joe Burrow's better than that. He had 31 passes for only 82 yards as the Bengals just fell flat in Cleveland. And look, there's really good teams that sometimes come out flat in week one and get their asses handed to them. Yeah. And that happened in Cincinnati yesterday. Or I guess it was in Cleveland. And by the way, there are also franchises that are just historically slow starters. And, Bengals check that box too. They are 1-4 straight up in their last 5 week one games. So expect Cincinnati to be a much greater test for the 49ers down the road once they catch a little rhythm. Again, the Cowboys aren't as good as they looked last night, and the New York Giants won't be that bad all season long. They're not going 0-17, and the Cowboys are not going to be a 40-0 world beater week in, week out, but it was a very impressive performance. You can't ask for a better start than that in week one. It's kind of the world that the 49ers fans are living in today. You can't ask for a better start than that. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Well, and also the Niners, now, knock on wood, we'll see. I believe they escaped virtually injury-free.
Yeah.
Monday morning in the NFL is about who went down, who's done for the year. Well, the Browns lost their starting right tackle, Jack Conklin. He suffered a torn ACL and a torn MCL in their win over the Bengals, and he's done for the year. The Eagles lost, I believe the Eagles lost Nakobe Dean, their second-year linebacker out of Georgia. He had a foot injury. They're saying that he's not going to need surgery, but injured reserve is a possibility, and he's going to miss several weeks. So, the Eagles lost a key player there in Nakobe Dean, and the Browns lost a key player. So,
look, Larry, just to let you know that week one results aren't the end-all, be-all, and team health really is. If I could walk into John Harbaugh's office today and make him the offer, hey, you lose yesterday's game, but J.K. Dobbins is still your running back, and he didn't tear his Achilles. J.K. Dobbins is done for the entire year. I wonder,
that's a major blow to the Ravens.
It's a huge blow, and I know that we just spent the entire offseason devaluing running backs, and they can be replaced easier than any other position on the field, and in a way, they can be. But he's good. He's integral to what they do. And I guarantee you that John Harbaugh would gladly take yesterday's win and put it into the loss column if it meant he could get 16 more games with with J.K. Dobbins. So week one,
another team looking for Jonathan Taylor. Don't forget them.
Yeah. I thought the Dolphins won the most dramatic game of the day. If you're looking for actually entertaining down to the wire football, there was one game that really gave it to you. The Dolphins with Tua executing late and he threw for 466 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday. Tua was fantastic. Austin Eckler, he was great, but Justin Herbert was only good. And if the Chargers are going to do anything this year, they got to have both Herbert and Eckler playing great at the same time. I mean, that's a team that's got a lot to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, once again, if you say there were people singing the praises, ripping Brock Purdy and singing the praises of Justin Herbert. I get it. Herbert's 6'6". He looks the part, central casting. He looks like the franchise quarterback. He makes some amazing throws. But once again, he's sub 500. He's sub 500.
But he's not sub 500 due to his play. It's the play around him. I guarantee you, if the Chargers
there's a lot of talent there, though, man. There's a lot of talent.
Dude, if the Chargers offered Herbert for Purdy today,
I know.
The 49ers make that trade.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd want to even admit that. But right. I'll say this. The thing that stood out to me in that game, you have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on the same defense, and they both played, and Miami dropped back to pass 45 times, and you got 0 sacks from Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. The Chargers only got 2 hits on the quarterback all day, and neither of them came from Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa. It was Sebastian Joseph Day who had 2 hits on the quarterback. That's it. That's it. So, you know what? Brandon Staley, the Chargers are my pick to win the AFC and to play the Niners in the Super Bowl. But Brandon Staley is supposed to be a defensive guru.
You get the Chargers winning the AFC?
Yeah, because
you're the one.
Because you can either go with the favorite or beat the favorite. And I decided I'll beat the favorite. And and this year, I thought, well, no Chris Jones half the year, Kansas City, we'll see. I love the Chargers' talent. Chargers have, Herbert's got talent. He's got Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly. He's got 2 running backs that are pretty good. He's got big receivers, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, the first-round pick out of TCU. They've got major talent on the defensive side of the ball. Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel, the rookie from SC is monster. They've got some nice players. They really do. Talent-wise, they're there. They just haven't been able to stay healthy. J.C. Jackson.
The Chargers ran for 234 yards at home yesterday and lost.
I know.
That's tough.
They ran for almost 6 yards a carry on 40 carries and lost.
That shouldn't happen.
And lost.
By the way, Garoppolo wins his Raiders debut, Larry. Derek Carr wins his Saints debut. Both quarterbacks got 1-point wins in their debuts. Jimmy threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception in his 1-point win. Derek Carr for 300 yards, a touchdown, and interception in his 1-point win. Good wins for the Saints and the Raiders, respectively. The Raiders got some ownage now over the Denver Broncos. And, I'll give the Raiders a tip of the cap, too, because not only did they win that first game with Garoppolo, so they're going to have a little bounce in confidence, but as is always the case with the Raiders, there's an underlying, note of drama underneath them at all times. And this Chandler Jones situation was weird. It's a really weird situation, what's going on there in Vegas. So the Raiders overcame that. They went on the road. They spoil the Sean Payton debut with Russell Wilson, and that's a good win for the Raiders, who are the only undefeated AFC West team. Look out, first place. Don't call them Oakland Raiders, Larry.
Well, a couple things stood out. One, the Raider offensive line is not good, right? It's not a good offensive line, but they found a way to keep Jimmy Garoppolo yesterday against Denver upright. Denver's defense had no sacks on the day. They only had 3 hits of Jimmy all day, but it was the full Jimmy Garoppolo experience.
It was.
He had an interception. He had some bungled plays. It seemed like it was a little frosty between him and Devontae Adams as they were walking off the field, because Devontae didn't get in the end zone. Jacoby Myers got in there twice, and the Raiders could not run the ball at all to save their life. The Raiders ran 29 times for 2.1 carry. Right. Josh Jacobs
had been late after the season, off-season long holdout. I'll say this: you talk about the full Garoppolo experience. It's amazing how that also includes you won the game. Like,
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
throughout
seriously,
all
he
of
went.
his
I was going to say,
coming.
the one thing about Garoppolo, I think Raider fans are going to like Garoppolo. Why? Because he's a much better competitor than Derek Carr at this point. Derek Carr will throw the ball into the turf at the wrong moment. Garoppolo shows up to win. You know, he's not a perfect quarterback. You know, did he have an interception? Yes. Did he fumble the ball? Yes. But he also is resilient, and he bounced back, and he completes a pretty good percentage. He was 20 of 26 for 200 yards. I think the Raider fans are going to like what they see from Garoppolo. To me, it's all about, what's the deal with Chandler Jones? He was buying designer sunglasses for the GM and the coach last week on social media. This week, he's trashing the defensive coordinator, the head coach, the general manager, saying he wants out. And it's just not. It's one of the weirdest things, Damon, because
that Mark
there's
Davis
a 20
sent to him.
Well, but the guy's got a $25 million hard cap hit, so they're not going to move him. So now you're just creating this huge stink, and I don't expect him to be going anywhere. No, I didn't see what did Davis tweet?
So Mark Davis, actually, for a guy who, I'm hearing he might be in some sort of mental personal crisis, locking himself in. They send an emergency response unit. They're getting ex-girlfriends to give him a call. Like, there's something wrong with Chandler Jones's mentals this week. And I think that's just a nice way of saying it. And Mark Davis and Chandler Jones shared what was really weird. Like, every word in the Mark Davis text was capitalized. It wasn't all caps. Every letter was Was
there any mention at all of what's his favorite Chinese restaurant?
P.F. Chang's was
P.F. Chang's.
Thinking of P.F. Chang's, we'll get the
no mentions of P.F. Chang's.
But here's the thing: Mark Davis he sent a beautiful sentiment saying, "Look, what makes the Raiders great is our Raider alumni." And I care so much more about you, Chandler Jones, the person, than I ever will Chandler Jones, the football player. If you need anything, you reach out to me. I am here for you. I mean, it was
good for him.
It was the kind. Look, we all know Mark Davis has done some very buffoonish shit as owner of the Raiders. He's also greatly increased the value of his daddy's franchise by making the move that he did. And he is great to Raiders alumni. Like, Mark Davis might not be a stylish guy with a snappy haircut, but he does care about his players, and that was evident yesterday in that text that Chandler Jones shared. Anyway, as we keep moving along, we're in our 10 o'clock hour here. We started at 8:30. We're normally going to get going the day after 49ers games at 8 a.m. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger. This is the 49ers Wake Up, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. The Acai Bowl is something. Look at it this way. Larry Krueger and I will be preaching the gospel of the Acai Bowl from Palmetto Superfoods, and Palmetto Superfoods only. All other Acai Bowls are trash.
We're not a friend of rival acai.
No, we only stump for Palmetto Superfoods.
That's right.
And we've tried it. We endorse it. The two of us got thinner, skinnier, and more athletic after we both ate one. And
seriously, if you're looking at this going, man, I can't believe how ugly that guy is. Imagine what I was before the acai.
You should have seen him on Friday.
Seriously, on Friday I was a mess.
Look at you
and
now.
Then all of a sudden, one acai bowl in Burlingame on Saturday, and I'm staying up late on Sunday, but I'm popping out of the rack on a Monday morning talking Niners. Hey, let me get a couple of supers out of the way here.
Wait, let me see if I can do this. Do you get this if I push this? Because this is what I have for the acai bowl. Oh,
yes, I got that.
Good.
Yes, we heard that. Paul Coffey says, hey, what's up? What's up, Paul?
Ching.
Good to see
There's
you.
A little coffee right there, Paul. Thank you very much. You're a great blue liner, by the way. Loved you with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
WTM, maybe a close friend of our good friend ATM, says, can we go get right tackle Tristan Wirfs from the Buccaneers? I'd make that deal. Tristan Wirfs, come on down. Though I'm a Colton McKivitz man myself. Ricky Williams says, Drake Jackson, all capitals. Dude is playing hungry. 3 sacks for Drake Jackson. Damon, I'd have to say, if you said, hey, you can go into the locker room and you can talk to any Niner who's your favorite Niner to talk to, it's probably Drake Jackson. He's a really cool, down-to-earth, easygoing dude. And he's just one of these guys that he had a ton of talent in college. He had a nice rookie year. He batted down some passes. He got involved in the mix. Then, if you looked at him, though, he like Ep.1 last year just was this ridiculous Adonis, right, with all this muscle in the upper body. Drake looked like a college football player. Like, he's a football player, but he just looked kind of normal size. This year, he's put on at least 10 to 15 pounds of muscle in his upper torso, shoulders. And so he's stronger, more explosive. He spent every day of his offseason in the facility. Other guys taking vacations, training elsewhere. He's in there every day, working. The Jordan Poole, if you will, of the 49ers. First guy in the morning, last guy out. The guy works at it.
Well, and look, Larry, the day that I joined you,
look at the day he had.
The day that I joined you at training camp, two guys who actually know what they're looking at when they're looking at training camp. What a concept. One of the first things I said to you standing there just watching was, holy shit, look at Drake Jackson. He's completely changed his upper torso from the waist up. He's a different human being. And dude, that guy, like, he doesn't have to bend over to tie his shoes. He is a pterodactyl. He's got arms for days.
And bend, all kinds of bend. He's really Gumby-like.
How about this? The difference between did you have a good year or did you have a great year is the play of Drake Jackson. I mean, when you talk, where are the Niners better on the margins if he provides a real counterpoint to what Nick Bosa is doing on the other side of that defensive line? Look the hell out for the San Francisco 49ers all season long. They're coming to a town near you to fuck your quarterback up. I mean,
they're going to wreak havoc. I said to him, too, I said, hey, Drake, you got Hargrave, you got Armstead, you got Bosa, you're on this line. I go, guarantees. I mean, anybody who knows anything about football knows that you're guaranteed to get a lot of one-on-ones. I go, how you feeling about this year? I said this to him in the locker room a few weeks ago, and he's like, I'm blessed. I just feel blessed. I mean, he was inactive the last 5 or 6 weeks last year because they had other needs inside. They weren't sure what they were getting out of Kinlaw. He had lost some upper body strength. He was starting to kind of wear down, and he was not getting a lot done out there. Well, he committed himself to strengthening his upper body, getting into the facility, working out like crazy with Chris on his get-offs. And this guy looks like he's headed towards a double-digit sack season. He was fantastic. He's got great motor.
Hargrave got his first as a 49er yesterday.
Yes, he did.
And Eric Armstead looked good. Javon Kinlaw looked good. Cleveland Farrell looked good. So the strength of this team.
Hyder.
You and I both talked about, you take Bosa off that one line, all of a sudden the depth is questionable. You put Bosa back in that room, the depth completely makes sense. And if Drake Jackson plays half that game, most of the games for the rest of this year, the 49ers are going to be a monster. I want to share with you, Larry, something that Tim Kawakami wrote this morning on The Athletic, or he put it out last night. I saw it today. Kawakami wrote, you can't win a Super Bowl in week 1 of the regular season, but you sure can get everybody's attention. You can make the NFL ground shake. You can stake your claim loud and proud right at the start of things. And that is indeed what the 49ers did. Message sent yesterday. And it probably is the most impressive opening of a season performance we've seen in Kyle Shanahan's tenure. Kawakami goes on to write, the last time the 49ers opened a season this well, their defense overwhelmed the Buccaneers back in 2019. The team started 8-0 on its way to a number 1 seed and to a Super Bowl appearance. So an outstanding start over a Pittsburgh team that saw its offense struggle mightily once the traffic light went green for real in the regular season after having a great preseason. 49ers did not have a great preseason. They didn't even play players that you saw yesterday. And when they are the fully functioning, formed together Voltron that they looked like yesterday, they're going to be really good. Now, Larry, we want to invite everybody. I'm guessing just about everyone watching us right now is already subscribing to your channel, as everyone should. Larry, your work around the Niners is exemplary. I hope half of your subscribers decide to subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus as well. You and I are going to be hand in hand every single morning after a 49ers game. This is 49ers Wake Up, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods and the best acai bowl you're going to find anywhere in the Bay Area. And that's not me and Larry just saying that. The Yelp reviews are in. It's special. It's healthy. It's delicious. Somebody said, wait a minute. You can't sell pig in a pickle and acai bowls. That's working against each other. No, it's not. It's balancing the scales. Finally, the scales are balanced. You can't sell bottles of whiskey and acai bowls. Yes, you can. It balances the scales.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Now, I want to wrap up here because I got to do my own show at 11 o'clock. So anyone who's not going to be rolling with you, whatever you're doing at 11, Larry, hopefully you take 11 off and people will follow me over to Damon Bruce Plus.
I am taking 11 o'clock in the morning off.
Good. You deserve it. You're a hardworking man. I hope Kevin, your son, comes and puts the big James Brown cloak over you. You're the hardest working man in show business. And by the way, thanks very much to the producer of 49ers Wake Up, Mr. Kevin Krueger. We got to come up with a production company name for your son because he's
seriously
good.
He's good. And he designed the whole wraparound that everybody's seeing here as well. Hey, I want to share the screen because this was my favorite post-game quote. We bring in Nick Bosa here, and this is Bosa.
Comes back for
hold on a second. We'll back this up. But here's Bosa after the game, and then give me your thoughts after we play what he says here.
Mr. Electricity. Here we go.
Shut some haters up. So it's nice to be on a really good team.
You say Purdy shut some haters up. I mean, are you specifically talking about one thing or just a general consensus on?
I think whenever a guy comes back from an injury and people kind of give him, they don't expect him to make another leap in the second year. I'm just happy for him. He's exactly who we thought he was.
There you go. Great line there from Nick Bosa, basically addressing the Purdy haters. And there were an awful lot of people. I mean, to me, this is a major subplot of the day after this game. And I'm not going to go with this every single freaking week and annoy everybody. But there were just an awful lot of people who said an awful lot of negative Brock Purdy things, saying, oh, he can't get any better. He topped out. Wait till the league adjusts to him, this and that. And I said, hey, I asked Brock the question in May at the minicamp. I said, Brock, where are you now compared to where you were at last year at this time? He's like, oh, my God, it's night and day. Last year, I could barely even remember the plays to spit them out the line of scrimmage. Now I know nuances of every aspect of every play in our entire offensive array. And so, I mean, that right there told me, okay, if the elbow comes back and he doesn't lose velocity, you're going to see a dramatically improved player. And to me, the play of the game outside of the Ayuk or the CMC run and the Ayuk and Ray block was the 3rd and 12 fourth quarter play. Niners trying to put the thing away. Purdy gets the 3rd and 12, trying to keep the offense on the field, and he runs 18 yards and then gives, as Damon said, the first down sign. And to me, that was and then as soon as he did that, Damon, you could hear the "Let's Go Niners" chant inside of Heinz Field from all the Niner fans who were still there. The Steeler fans basically started running for the exits at that point. But 3rd and 12 from the plus 41, and he runs for 18. And I mean, it just... That's the kind of winner move that you just don't see a lot.
Well, and look, there's,
good for Brock. Good for Brock.
For those who are decidedly anti-Brock, there's something going on there other than trying to cover the reality of the football team that's actually in front of them. It's a desperate attention-seeking propaganda is what it truly is. And it's why so many 49er fans are misinformed. It really is. You and I don't need to show that anyone was wrong. The NFL showed that a lot of these guys who were, Trey Lance is the savior, Brock Purdy is holding this team back. The NFL just lets you know that you need to pick a better brand of content creator along the way, or, go ahead and swim in propaganda if that's how you get down. I don't care where you swim, but if you want to swim with me and Larry, you're going to be in clear blue ocean where we're going to actually report on what's happening, not what we preordained, what we wanted to happen. So we're going to try to just speak it into existence with every single YouTube video we put out. What you have here is 40 years almost combined experience covering this football team, talking to 49ers fans. And that's why it's great to have you here on 49ers Wake Up. Larry and I are going to be brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods the morning after every single 49ers game. Be here at 8 a.m. We got a late start time today at 8:30. We're going to be going at 8 a.m., bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go after every Niner game. We'll see you right here on 49ers Wake Up the morning after. Like I said,
a couple supers. Let's move here. Glass half full guy says, great show. Love the idea of trading for Jonathan Taylor just to keep him off of a main competitor. Yeah, I mean, it's the keep away game. And then Mike Fuss says Trey Lance would have kneeled those last two plays better than Sam Darnold. There you go. We've got this one from Jim Molay. He says, got the pig and the pickle menu up, not seeing the acai bowls. Jimmy, get some acai in you.
And by the way, I love Mole, Jimmy. What a great last name you have. You can put Mole on anything.
Mole. Frank Tom Ocean says, as humble as Purdy is, I love that he threw a jab at Patrick Peterson after the game. Ready for week 2. Let's go. Yeah, that was the other little soundbite of the weekend that, it's funny. Brock Purdy was asked about about Patrick Peterson. And, Purdy, you got to love Purdy. I mean, he first of all, why don't we do this? Let me show you Peterson, because Peterson Peterson's a good dude. I mean, he's a good player, Damon, and there's no question about it. There's nothing wrong with
right. You don't play a dozen years in this league without being really good at what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And let's share the screen here. This is Pat Pete earlier after the game.
Really.
Here wait, hold on a second. Here we go.
In their offense, did they ditch those? Or?
It was there. I had opportunity to get 2 pigs. I just didn't grab it in, But credit to those guys. Those guys did a great job of, sticking to their game plan and, really get into their identity, which is run the football, misdirections, hit those bang-aids, hit those deep stops. That's just what they do. We just wasn't in good enough position to make those plays.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, I'll give him credit on that. He didn't try to, he owned his words somewhat, right? He didn't.
Well, and here's the thing. I never thought that he said anything that was that insulting about Brock Purdy in the first place. Like, I didn't think Patrick Peterson stepped out of bounds or really gave the Niners any bulletin board material or anything like that. They asked him what he thought, and he said, well, there's a young quarterback who's still proving himself, which Brock is. But boy, is he proving himself with a historically measurable good start to his career. And he's a special player. Do you have any?
There's one more. There's one more I got to play for you, because you're going to love this one. Niner fans will love this one. This is Purdy responding in the post game a little bit to the Pat Pete stuff. Just a quick hitter here.
The second touchdown on the right side, the deep ball. Was that on Patrick Peterson? Yeah, and that one, I was like, all right, that felt good.
Was that on? That's a great one. Was that on Patrick Peterson? Yeah. Like he didn't know that. Yeah, he knew damn well that was on Patrick Peterson.
By the way, that was one of Patrick Peterson's best defended plays of the entire afternoon. Brandon Ayuk just made an incredible catch and got his feet down in the corner there of the front corner of the end zone. Patrick Peterson was right here, Larry. He was defending him like this. I mean, it was perfect coverage. Patrick Peterson doesn't have anything to be embarrassed about in that play.
It was a dime.
It was a hell of a play.
It was a flat dime and a great catch. Ken says, grade Purdy's performance yesterday, guys. Well, if you were giving him a letter grade, Damon, what kind of letter grade do you want to give him?
I'm going to give him an A-. He fumbled twice, but there you go. I mean, an A- on the way to an overall A day for the entire organization. It was, coming away with any letter grade below B plus is just absolute nonsense and tomfoolery. That was almost a perfect game that the 49ers played, but for one drive at the end of that could have been a 31. What was it, 31-7? That could have been
30-7.
Okay, that could have been 30-0.
Yeah.
That could have been 30-0 yesterday.
I'm going to give him an A, just because to me, to face the kind of pressure that he faced from that Steeler line, the kind of momentum that exists at the whole season home opener of the Pittsburgh Steelers with the terrible towels, to go into that situation, to keep his wits about him, to remain calm, to take some big time hits, to not turn the ball over at all. To me, that was the clean slate. That I got to give him the A. I realize that nothing's perfect, but I'll give him the A just for the fact that he went there and he didn't throw any picks.
Yeah,
in a high pressure environment.
Any single time either one of my boys brings home an A-, they're going to get a huge pat on their back and a great job. It's a really good job, and it's hard to be A-, like you said, or A in Pittsburgh against a Mike Tomlin coach team. Week one, Tomlin teams usually eat very well in week one, and they didn't even get a nibble of their acai bowl. Maybe the Steelers need more Palmetto Superfoods acai bowls.
Dazza goes B plus from Dazza 0187.
Here's the thing.
You can give him the B plus. That's fine.
I'm good with that. Everyone should be critical, but you shouldn't be looking to be performative in this criticism. To walk away saying Brock Purdy did anything other than play a great game is nonsense. Is utter nonsense. And to walk away saying, good game for a guy who doesn't have much arm strength, that means you're all out of bullets. You don't even know what you're shooting at anymore.
We got two good ones here. One from M. Patel says, nitpicking. Why was CMC in the game so late?
That is a great question. That's a legitimate question. Jordan Mason is there. Elijah Mitchell is there. And McCaffrey is way too valuable to be giving away snaps or carries or touches in a game that is decided. As soon as the game is in the barn, I want McCaffrey's helmet hidden. So he can't even go in.
That was nitpicking, but I agree with that too. Third string All-Pro says Larry was definitely overreacting to the preseason run defense the other day. I wasn't overreacting. I asked Kyle Shanahan the question. I said, hey, you guys have given up 6 yards a carry in the preseason. I go, how much is the run defense a concern? And to his credit, he gave me a good answer. He said, you know what? If it was based on the preseason, I'd be very concerned about our run D. He's like, I'll expand on it. I didn't like our run D against the Raiders in the first preseason game either. He goes, but we were number 1 in the league last year against the run. There were some other circumstances. Max Duggan ran successfully on us. Joshua Kelly got a 75-yard run on us. We had some young linebackers with some poor run fits. He wasn't making excuses, but he was saying, I expect that we're going to be a lot better against the run in week 1 than we were in the preseason. And sure enough, Steelers averaged 4.1 a carry, but they only ran 10 times. Najee had 1 run for 24 yards. Otherwise, he had 5 carries for a yard. 5 carries for 1 yard a pop. So I think the Niners, to me, the run D wasn't exposed because there was only 10 runs. We'll see how it goes from here. But for 1 week, the run D definitely stood up.
Well, and look, this is a team that knows how to play the run and has for years. It's been a strength of every successful Kyle team, and I'd be surprised if this were a year where anything other than that was what we saw week in, week out. Now, there will be a week where it doesn't go well. The Niners are not going undefeated this year. They will not only are they not going undefeated, Larry, somebody's going to straight up whoop their ass. It just happens in this league now.
Yeah.
There is no 1985 Chicago Bears. This whole thing is going to be a breeze. It doesn't work like that anymore. It never really worked like that historically anyways. So people need to tamp down expectations. At the same time, the expectations are Super Bowl appearance, and the 49ers in week 1 didn't do anything to make anybody move off of that expectation. So that's about as good of a start as a football team can have. Now, here's where I'd like to wrap up our show before I go over to Damon Bruce Plus to do a little bit more on the Plus, Larry, at 11 a.m., please go ahead and subscribe to not only this show, but subscribe to me. The show is growing and building. And Larry, I thank you so much for all the exposure your channel has gotten me. You and I got something very special together. I think fans know it. I think both these radio stations in town fear it and are probably shitting themselves a little that we're doing a day after morning show, as they should be. And this is where we end today.
Over 1,000 people in the room, by the way. Before you end, by the way,
yes.
Let me just get these last two supers. Yeah. Ken
Please.
Konecki says, same with Brock. Sam should have been playing the fourth quarter. And we have this one from Dazzo, who says, how concerned are you guys about the right side of the O-line? TJ Watt did get 3 sacks on the right side, and teams will just put their best defensive end on the right side. Well, we kind of covered it a little bit earlier, but it wasn't a perfect performance by any stretch. But I don't think any of us are losing our mind saying they have to banish Colton McKivitz to Siberia. I just think that they may need to.
The best edge rusher in the game. I mean,
you may need to chip. You may need to throw a double. You may need to help them out a little bit.
TJ Watt's really special. And by the way, every team's best edge rusher is lining up against the right tackle. That's where Nick Bosa lines up. That's just part and parcel of doing business in this league right now. So help out McKivitz when he's playing Superman. There are very few Supermen in this league at that position. The 49ers got their Superman in Nick Bosa. TJ Watt is a Superman. Micah Parsons is a Superman. And there's a few others out there for sure. But Colton McKivitz is going to need a little bit more help, a little bit more attention to detail. You got George Kittle, who, let's face it, George Kittle as a pass-catching tight end is, on a weekly basis, sometimes very overrated. George Kittle disappears in football games all the time. But if he's on that line blocking and helping protect Purdy, it's certainly worth that disappearance if that's what he's doing. Have Kittle help out over on that right side. Anyway, before this game even kicked off, Larry, after being pilloried, and rightfully so, okay? I mean, there was something weird with Nick Bosa until it wasn't weird. And then things became incredibly not weird. They got the deal done, thank God. And I still can't believe it. I don't have sticker shock. I do not have sticker shock on the Nick Bosa contract. I think it's very reasonable all the way around. The guarantee doesn't leave me blown away. The annual average value is exactly where I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to have so much Nick Bosa sticker shock that we'd be like, oh man, the last year.
Well, it's record setting, but it needed to be record setting.
He's that guy.
Right.
The 49ers,
we knew it was going to be record setting.
And after that, the 49ers have freed up $23 million in cap space after restructuring Kittle and Williams, and now have more cap flexibility than any other team in the NFL. So we still don't know the structure of Nick Bosa's contract. Once we get the details on that, we will know a little bit more the answer, or the available multiple choice answers to the question I'm about to ask you. If Bosa's deal is so front loaded that it gobbles that up just on his own, then that's what that cap space represents. But if it's not, Larry, if it's not, what do you think this surplus of cap space could actually turn into? And I'd like to give you a multiple choice answer.
Okay.
A, is it the answer to the mega front-loaded Bosa deal? B, is it Brandon Ayuk having a $14 million cap hit next year, which is a $10 million raise over this year, and Ayuk is about to position himself as the guy who doesn't play on a one-year walk? He's going to want to restructure. Is this cap space created to make sure Brandon Ayuk stays on this team? Is this cap space created because they are so in love with McCaffrey, they're thinking about maybe a possible restructure and extension beyond 2025? Or is this just stashed flexibility for the problem that hasn't even revealed itself yet, because we're 4 quarters into the year, and believe me, something is going to go wrong? So is this a surplus for the rainy day fund, or do you think this is a surplus to either service Bosa, McCaffrey, or Ayuk, 3 players who are, going to be paid thoroughly?
I think it's a little bit of everything, in that I think that there's no question that, it's kind of like you're going on a cross-country jaunt, let's call it a hike. You're going on this long trek.
Get an acai
And-
bowl. You get all the you'd be ready
and
to
you've
go.
had your acai in the morning, so you're feeling energized. But why go on a long hike and not fill up your canteen with water, right? That's what I look at it as. It's like they're all in on winning the Super Bowl this year, all in. So why would you go all in and leave yourself with no financial flexibility to add to your roster midstream in a sport where there's massive, forget injuries, there's like casualties when it comes to the roster. So, you've needed to add pieces to the puzzle along the way in the past. You may need to again. I think in an ideal world, they don't need to add anything. And this is a big 2024, keep Brandon Ayuk fund and keep the core together fund. But I think that's naive. I think what's going to happen is what you stated. There's going to be some injury that's unforeseen. It's going to create some void that's unforeseen. And this will be an ability to add a veteran player of significance. Maybe it's an edge rusher. Maybe it's an offensive lineman. Maybe it's Jonathan Taylor because you want to block the Eagles or Chiefs or Cowboys from getting Jonathan Taylor and have this incredible array of position player talent. Maybe it's a corner. Maybe it's, we don't know what it's going to be, but I think that they definitely, it's about next year's great core, keeping it together. But first, this year comes before next year. And I think it's about establishing $24 million, a pool of money that you can go. If you need Brian Burns to add to your pass rush, if you need, an offensive player or some piece to the puzzle, now you've got the flexibility because they got a full complement of draft picks as well. So not only do they have the most cap room in the NFL, they have a full complement of draft picks, and they've got a Super Bowl caliber roster. So I think this is both. You're not going to get left in a situation in November or late October where, man, you got a great team, but they're gonna fill in that butt. And then as far as the future, I think if that doesn't happen and everybody stays relatively healthy, I think it's Brandon Ayuk, you're coming on back, and we'd like to retain as much of this core as we can because I think they'd like to make the window, continue on, especially with a young quarterback and especially because Shanahan and Lynch and Jed collectively will be made men the day that they can win the Super Bowl. It will change the trajectory of their professional lives. They know it. They're all in on it. And it's this is their. They try to win the Super Bowl every year, but this year there is an added resolve to not be denied, and you can feel it. You can feel it around the facility. Let me throw a couple more supers here. Bobby says, when the run is taken away because it can and will be in a game, can Brock Purdy win with his arm? We don't know.
It's a maybe. It's a very strong maybe.
I would say the odds are pretty good. Nacho Crash says, hey, here's a 10 spot. Just for the hell of it. No comment. Jacob George, Brock to me is not a very good quarterback. He is great in all caps. Anytime you go all caps, you're making a point.
Right? Let's find out. To me, it's still too early to confer greatness upon anyone. But boy, what a spectacular start and what a good fit he looks to be. And how often did you say at any point in time during the Garoppolo, CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, Brian Hoyer era, man, this guy's just a really good fit for what Kyle wants to do. He's an adequate fit. It looks like Purdy could be a great fit because he is more of an athlete than any of those guys were. And he had a couple of rollouts yesterday, Larry.
Yeah,
he had some escape. He had some escape the pocket, just move around the pocket moments where I thought that's why Kyle's got a hard on for this guy. Like, well, that's
the point. People analyze and dissected Kyle's, hey, this guy's the real deal comment. My assessment of that was twofold. One, that Kyle is keenly aware that there's a lot of people saying that Brock was a flash in the pan. Literally, people in some of the chats I saw this offseason said that he's the NFL's version of Jeremy Lin. So basically, when you're saying that, you're saying it's not sustainable. When Kyle said this guy's the real deal, he said two things. A, in his opinion, it is sustainable. And indirectly, what he was really telling us, and people are always trying to hold Kyle's feet to the fire. If you want to hold his feet to the fire, I think what he was telling you when he said Brock Purdy's the real deal is that he has found the quarterback that he thinks he can win a championship with. And that's what I take out of Brock's the real deal. You guys who thought he wasn't sustainable are wrong. And it's also a statement from him saying, you know what? This is my guy. This is my guy.
Mitchell and Ness says, funny how the show started with Damon sucking off Brock. Now he's more tempered. First of all, I didn't suck him off. I'm telling you that he's doing historically significant things. But the word Brock Purdy and greatness, they're not in the same sentence yet. And only some slapdick just got here new fanboy would try to make that happen. You don't need to speak anything about Brock into existence. His career will reveal itself in front of us. And we're starting to look at a career that is off to an exemplary, historically good start. But past performance does not dictate future outcome. So,
and also, isn't it a little early in the morning for sucking off? I mean,
I think so. But we did talk about Shanahan masturbating to wide receivers blocking downfield. So, you know, I
just don't want to soil the sanctity of Palmetto's Superfoods.
They deserve better. You're right.
They deserve better than
that.
The Acai Bowl, you know, it means so much more than it doesn't belong with sucking off, at least not at 10:42 in the morning.
Exactly.
10:42 at night, do what you got to do.
Absolutely. Some after hours, Red Shoe Diaries, 49er wake up. Let's kind of wrap up with this because one of our
We're going to wrap this thing up?
I know. One of our biggest concerns, Larry, one of the legitimate, this is not a fabricated propaganda level of concern, but this is a concern based on what we've seen, was Jake Moody. Hello, kid. Way to have a perfect afternoon in your professional debut. I'm never going to think of nor worry about missed preseason field goals in Las Vegas ever again.
I put him on the fantasy team. I put him on the Krueger ends.
Did you really? Jake Moody was supposed to be, you know, a weak spot. Mitch Wisnowski had himself the kind of a preseason that made you think, does he still have it? The answer is an unquantified yes. I mean, he was fantastic yesterday.
Two great touch punts for Wisnowski.
Really nice stuff from the 49ers kicking game. And I thought that their kick return coverage, their punt return coverage, not that we saw a lot of punt returns because Wisnowski was getting it done with all these perfect coffin corners. It was a really good day for the 49ers special teams as well. And you know, we probably weren't expecting that.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Jake Moody could be anything from a flash in the pan to their kicker for the next 20 years, you know. And yesterday he looked real solid. And you know what? He looked good in practice. So, you know, I'm not sure if, you know, sometimes the extra pressure bothers guys, but this guy stripes it in practice and he hits it right down the middle with a lot of force. So maybe they found their guy. I hope they found their guy. It would be an incredible story. The last time the Niners won the Super Bowl, their kicker was Doug Bryan. He was a rookie out of Cal in his very first go-round. So maybe that's a little omen. Dazza says Brock Purdy, who was good on the weekend, might be sustainable, but we need to see it over a full season at least.
A guy named HR says, Damon,
fair enough.
Larry, I won't eat acai. That's nasty. See, you don't know what you're talking about. This is a straight up acai bowls. I'm prescribing green eggs and ham to all of you. How do you know you don't like green eggs and ham if you haven't tried it? Larry and I both had our very first acai bowl from Palmetto Superfoods, and
it was outstanding.
Converted. Two dedicated to be fat boys, eating healthfully. It's a really good way to start your day. It's a great substitute for any dessert, and only from Palmetto Superfoods, because all these other acai bowls have all this sugar and bullshit just pumped right into it. Not at Palmetto Superfoods. It is delicious. Larry and I actually went down there to
first of all, there's a bunch of locations.
Right.
The locations are all, I mean, that's the beautiful part. I'm going to put them on the bottom of the screen here. They've got one on Union Street. They got one on Clement Street. There's one in Burlingame. There's one in Santana Row. There's one in Town and Country Mall. There's one inside the Metreon. They're coming with another one in San Francisco, Campbell, Mill Valley, Berkeley, Walnut Creek in the downtown mall, San Ramon, Mountain View. They're gonna have a Palmetto Superfoods in Southern California, one on the Hawaiian Islands. Not someday, we hope. They're all coming right away. And Mo says acai bowls are good for you and good.
Baron Red says acai is too sweet for me because you've had bad acai. You've had over-processed, over-sugared, because it's actually a bitter berry. And look, this is something I'd never tried before. And I really wasn't even that excited about trying it. Like health food, can't we we can go get a delicious yolky sausagey breakfast sandwich over there. Shouldn't we be selling those instead? But they found us. Charles of Palmetto Superfoods reached out to us because he understands that the only thing that is preventing his Palmetto Superfoods acai bowl from becoming one of the biggest new food trends in the world is a reluctance of people to try something that they don't even really know how to pronounce it. It's hard to order.
It's definitely a try it and you'll like it. You know, it's
really
like
is.
All I would say to anybody is like, don't, I'm not saying become a season ticket holder at acai. I'm just saying, you know what? Try it. Go to a game. You know, you ever been to a Niner game? Go to a game. Decide if you like it. Go to Palmetto's and try it yourself. And you come back and tell us that you like it. Because I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to love it. Because it's to me, this is the productive morning, let's get your morning rolling, food. I mean, this is going to get you up and rolling and productive. And that's really what it's all about.
Here's the thing. No matter what I'm eating, I want this answered. Is it delicious? It was delicious. It didn't, if someone blindfolded me and said, here, just eat this, and then took the blindfold off and said, what you ate, was it just healthy? Yes or no? I would say, well, that was too delicious to be healthy. Well, what do you know? Fat boys are wrong. It's delicious. Eat it. Try it. Just try it. Just try it. You will be converted quickly. Go to
Brendan Dillinger. Just good to see that you're very talented and very versatile there.
You don't even need to read that into the official ledger.
No, we don't have to read it. It's just we just want to make sure he and then we got this one from ADF. ACE, get your health on.
Again, Larry and I.
Wait, Damon. FEMA Camp Etiquette for Dummies. ACE is like the Debo Samuel of fruits. There you go. You can't go wrong.
It can catch a ball. It can run with the ball. The yak yardage of the acai bowl is really impressive.
Noel says, well, okay, there you go.
Yeah. They're delicious. Here's the thing. Try one and then have the guts to look us in the eye and tell us you didn't like it.
Seriously.
Try one.
Get, as Jim Calhoun would say, get your facts and then come back and see me. Get your facts and then come back and see me.
How much money am I making? I'm underpaid. Larry, this was an awesome start to the year for the Niners. This was an awesome start to the year for the 49ers Wake Up Show, which you and I are going to be hosting each and every morning after the 49ers play. Join Larry and I. Today we were only on his channel, but we have the technology to stream this on both of our channels. So no matter where you watch, we don't care where you watch. We just want you to watch. And seriously, check out Palmetto Superfoods. Try an acai bowl. You'll be happy that you did. It's delicious.
No doubt. Try an acai bowl from Palmetto's. They got a bunch of locations, all primo locations. Try it. Try it and you'll like it. Try it one time and come back and tell us how you feel about it. I think you're going to love it. I think you're absolutely going to love it.
McCaffrey, you might have heard of it, but you really don't understand it until you see it right in front of you. And then you're like, oh, damn, pretty good.
It's kind of like this live stream. You know, we've had almost 1,100 people in the stream this morning who want to talk Niner football on a morning after. And that's what Damon and I are going to do for you basically throughout the season. Every morning after Niner football, you got it locked right here on the dual channel 49er Wake Up. This was episode 1, but we will do a weekly episode. And, of course, as we said, brought to you by Palmetto Superfoods. Thanks to Charles, the owner of Palmetto Superfoods, for believing in the vision of 49er Wake Up. And, heck, for the first show to have over 1,100 people in the room, very, very good stuff. And onward and upward.
I'm going to leave you with this, Larry, because we officially achieved I'm so happy to have the NFL back. I feel like I'm complete again. Even Jillian yesterday, she's checking her fantasy team. I'm like, isn't it great to have football back? And she's like, hell yeah, it is. So it's wonderful that it's football season again. I absolutely love the month of September. Today, obviously, being September 11th, very important and somber day for so many reasons. It was good to be with you today, Larry. We got something special here. You and I have been talking to 49ers fans for a combined nearly 40 years of experience that we have, and we really think that we are going to serve the fan base very, very well by giving you a real honest reaction to what is happening. Neither one of us came into this show with an agenda. Neither one of us came in with a point that our entire career is now based on and got undercut yesterday by NFL realities. So what you have here is experience talking, and I hope that that matters to you in a world where everyone wants to be a pundit on day one. Choose your pundits carefully. And thank you so much for joining us today, Larry. I'm going to let you have the last words. And since this is officially on your page today, you get to wrap it up, brother. But it's always a pleasure to be working with you. And we're about to have a great football season. And the exciting thing is, I think that the 49ers are about to have a really big football season too.
No doubt about it. Al Felipe with our final comment. He says, Damon and Larry just obtained 10-year supply of acai for free. Wow.
Put it in my veins.
Yeah. Look at you. Look at you. Wait a second. Always drip 805. Larry, if you ain't got haters, you ain't popping. You ain't popping. Hey, you know who is popping? Palmetto Superfoods, Damon, and I, and this channel every day after 49er football. I catch it throughout the year. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring.